Disc 7.
37. I'm still invisible. My first thought on waking up is that I may have unvanished as far as the rest of the world is concerned. But my world is the twins, and they believe I'm still unconscious, trapped in that unknowable limbo between life and death. As does Lucy, no doubt. And if they don't know I'm awake, they won't be expecting me to come home. They won't know the difference if I never come home. No one will know. No one will care. Will Lucy? For a time I was suspicious of her, petty jealousy spiralling out of control in my unconscious mind. But now I simply don't believe Dom's hint that they're a couple. I was wrong about my friend. Now I'm frightened for her, not knowing where she is or whether she's all right, not knowing whether my children are all right. I start panicking, I call out, my heart pounding in my chest as I scream my frustration into the darkness, begging for someone to come, anyone to please help me. But there is no one to hear, no one to notice my absence and wonder what's happened to me. Professor Hernandez, will he miss me and wonder where I am? I'd like to think so, but perhaps I'm kidding myself. I was never close to my own father, but I have a sense of having formed that kind of relationship with the doctor, and it meant everything to me. I think of Stash saying she'd have given up many times if it hadn't been for him, and I feel the same. He saved me, in more ways than one. I was probably just another patient for him, though. I've been discharged, and I will be forgotten. There will be another patient in my room now, another poor soul in need of his help. After all, he's an expert in his field. Second to none. That's what DCI Watkins called him. I think of the detectives and wonder if they will try to visit me again. Will they want to follow up on our interview, check in with me to see if I've remembered anything? Would they be surprised to find I've left the hospital? Would they come looking for me at my home? But the case is closed, nothing more to say. What were the detectives' words? No further action is required. No one is looking for me. There is no way out. I am completely at Dom's mercy. Nobody knows I'm here, and I have no phone, no food. I'm still too physically weak to attempt any kind of escape, even if I stood the remotest chance of overpowering Dom. I'm not even sure I can get myself to the bathroom, and I really badly need to go. I don't know how long I've been lying here, but my bladder hurts. My face feels glued to the rough mattress with saliva, sweat, and tears. The inside of my mouth feels like I've swallowed sandpaper. I must have slept, but I don't feel rested. I feel crumpled, aching and weak with thirst, hunger, terror, and despair. I try to concentrate on lifting just one leg, but my body feels wooden and heavy. I didn't make it as far as having physio sessions at the hospital, and it's still a considerable effort to move my limbs freely. After the long drive, no sustenance, and an uncomfortable sleep punctuated by nightmares, I'm not sure I'll be able to walk without assistance. You may as well stop struggling. You're not going anywhere. I can't hide the bolt of shock that makes me jump, and I hear Dom's chuckle in response. How long has he been standing there watching me? As I turn my head to look for him, a memory flashes into my mind of the night we first met. Dom staring at me just so from between the bookshelves. I shiver, and it takes my eyes a few seconds to adjust to the dark, to be able to make out his tall body tucked inside an alcove where a wardrobe may have once stood. I'm convinced I've never been in this room, in this house, before. But I can tell everything has been cleared out, all sign of Max erased. I grimace, embarrassed. The little girl's room. I'm not sure my brother went in for luxury toiletries, but then you'd know his tastes better than I ever did. Let's investigate, shall we? He steps out of the shadows and moves swiftly towards me, digging one arm under my legs and bracing the other behind my back. With the ease of lifting a child, he hoists me up against him. Instantly, I'm reminded of his comment when we arrived, and for the briefest moment I think of the days when there was nowhere I felt safer than cradled against Dom's broad chest, carrying me over the threshold of our first home together, holding me against him as we both cried tears of joy when the twins were born. He used to be my protector, and then he wasn't. Now he's my enemy. Every fibre of my being screams out that I was right about him in the bright dark and that nothing has changed. In fact, it's far worse. Max is dead. Dom can't punish him. But he wants to punish me for even thinking about leaving him, running off with his big brother. The idea still feels completely alien to me, but I know my protests will fall on deaf ears. Dom said he wants to forgive me. I know he lied. Please, let me try by myself. I can manage. I can't bear the thought of him witnessing my humiliation. Have it your way. He instantly releases his hands, carelessly dropping me back onto the bed, knocking the breath from my body and jarring every vertebrae in my spine. I groan in pain, but he remains looming over me, unmoved by my suffering. Even through the gloom, I can see his eyes boring into mine, and they are ice cold, hard, challenging. There are no ties on my hands or feet, and I suppose I should be grateful for that. I'm not bound up, but I might as well be. It takes every ounce of strength I possess to drag myself to the bedroom door and fall against it. But when I try to open it, I realise it's still locked. I twist the brass knob several more times, turning it frantically from left to right, but still it won't budge. Dom laughs. Silly me, forgot the key. Now where did I put it? Pretends to check all his pockets before finally grabbing the small gold key and holding it aloft. Now, how are you going to persuade me to give it to you? He grins, stepping towards me, backing me against the door, and his big hands grip my shoulders, thumbs digging deep. I feel a shudder roll through me as he begins stroking the hollow above my collarbone with the tip of one forefinger. You're skin and bone, woman, he says in a low voice that I hear rumble deep in his chest. Not sure even Max would find you that enticing now. Let me go, I whisper, turning my head away from his face, inches from mine. Never. His arm snakes behind my back, and I feel his left hand pressing me closer to him at the same time as he pushes against me, his broad chest smothering my face. His right hand fumbles around, digging into the back of my hip, and I close my eyes and will myself not to scream or show any sign of weakness. There, off you go. He cackles and releases me, and as he steps back, I see him shove the key back in his pocket. I don't waste a second. I turn immediately and try the door again, awkwardly twisting the knob with shaking fingers. This time it swings open. Don't keep me waiting. You've kept me hanging around for 3 months already. Dom calls after me as I stumble onto the landing and look frantically around the dark space, blinking as I try to get my bearings. There are no lights on out here, and when my hands scramble across the wall to find a switch, pressing it in relief, nothing happens. I flick it repeatedly, but the flat clicking noise simply echoes in the darkness. Blindly, I step forward and my soft-soled boots crunch over something sharp. A smashed light bulb, I think. Looking up to make out something twisted and stringy dangling down from the ceiling. I stretch out my arms again to feel my way along the wall, slowly inching forward, trying to remember where the stairs are, scared I might slip and tumble down them in the dark. After a few seconds, my eyes begin to adjust, and I notice tiny slivers of light slipping through the gaps around the panels boarding up each window. I manage to make out that the bedroom where I've just come from is opposite the top of the stairs, and another 3 doors stand open, leading off the narrow landing. The huge, shadowy block looming above me is the underside of a second set of stairs, presumably leading up to another floor, a bedroom or attic space. A shiver prickles the back of my neck in the cold, dank air, and I cross my fingers that Dom won't take me up there. My fear is irrational rather than specific. I've no idea what is at the top of those stairs. But locked in an abandoned attic is no way to end my life. Am I going to die? I can't force the fear back in its box now it's sprung out at me, but equally I can't bring myself to believe that Dom will actually cause me physical harm. Not seriously. He's angry, he wants me to suffer, but he's not a killer. Max was the one who allowed his temper to get the better of him. Frustrated, intense Uncle Max, who always wanted what his brother had, and if he couldn't have it, no one else would. But Dom is the smart, ambitious brother who really made something of his life. He's not going to blow that now. He has far too much to lose. I can't believe he would throw away his career, his whole life, his family, just to punish me for an infidelity I don't even remember. He hurt me before. The thought presses itself forward, and I hesitate at the top of the stairs, toying with the idea of shuffling down them and making a bid for freedom. Perhaps, despite my earlier doubts, a neighbour will help me after all, or at least let me use a phone, make a call to the police. I remember Michelle saying that she'd leave their business cards with the nurse, and I curse myself for forgetting to collect them before we left the hospital. I was so excited to be on my way home to the children, and I realise now why Dom was in such a hurry. There was only so long he could keep up the concerned husband act. He was certainly convincing. Maybe that's where Annabelle inherited her dramatic talent, I think bitterly. The thought of my daughter draws my eyes once again towards the stairwell. Every muscle, every nerve ending is convulsing in fear for my children. But all Dom would have to do is follow me out of the front door and say that his wife is having a strop, bit of a domestic. Who would want to get involved? Who would care? Maybe the neighbours will even recognise Dom as Max's brother, depending how long they've lived here. They may also remember him growing up here as a boy. I struggle to convince myself that anyone is going to take my word over his. The suave, well-dressed, articulate businessman who charms everyone, who once charmed me. Conscious that I need to hurry up or Dom will come looking for me, I shuffle faster around the L-shaped landing, peering into each dark, empty room, squinting and blinking rapidly until my eyes can make out what looks like a bathroom. I've barely managed to use the toilet, get my clothes back in order and feel my way to the sink when I hear a sharp rap on the door. "Just one more minute," I call out, plunging my hands urgently into the icy stream of water, bending to angle my face under the cold tap to gulp great thirsty mouthfuls and let the water run over my face, refreshing my sticky, tear-stained cheeks. "You've had your minute. Time's up." The door swings open and I sense, rather than see, Dom's big arm reach out, his long fingers gripping my arm, squeezing it until I cry out. He drags me out of the bathroom, ignoring my yelp of pain as I misjudge the doorway and bang my right cheekbone on the frame. Disoriented by the unexpected blow, my arms flail around as I try to recover my sense of equilibrium. But Dom gives me no time, and my fingernails scrape along the walls, my feet stumbling on the uneven floorboards as he drags me behind him. I'm too shocked even to cry, but my cheek is throbbing, and my legs are turning to jelly. Fear and exhaustion steal what little strength I've managed to recover in the short time since I woke up in hospital. It's almost a relief when Dom shoves me back into the bedroom and I collapse onto the mattress, my breath coming in tearful gasps as I sprawl across it. "Make yourself comfortable. Just got to pop home for a little while. A couple of small things to take care of. But don't worry, I'll be back soon." "No, wait, don't go." I don't want to be with Dom, but I'm terrified of being alone here, trapped in this house, this room where Max lived. I'm caught between the devil and his brother, and I will say or do anything to keep Dom from going home to the twins." "Sweet. You want me to stay? No need to worry. I won't abandon you. I don't run away from my commitments. I'm your husband, and that still means something, to me at least." "What does it mean to you?" I stall for time, frantically trying to think of reasons why he shouldn't go back to the house, trying to think of anything at all that might convince him to stay here, away from my children. "Oh, I don't know. But just as, for instance, it means that when I marry someone, I don't sleep with their sibling, or plot with that sibling to steal everything that matters to me, or cook up some kind of crazy half-assed plan together to have them shot." Alone again in the dark, I keep replaying Dom's words, and terror seeps like poison through my veins, making me shudder with revulsion. Is he suggesting I knew about the gun? Plotting with Max? I have no memory of it. I have no memory of being secretly in love with him either, or turning to him for comfort when my marriage began to fall apart. So I suppose it's possible I've also forgotten scheming with Max to punish the mocking younger brother who so obviously resented his presence in our home. I was certainly tired of Dom's bullying, and I've seen the news stories. Battered wives do sometimes find the strength to take justice into their own hands. An image of a gun flashes across my mind. An old military-issue firearm that needed cleaning because it had lain in the attic all these years. The attic at the top of the stairs. I tried to picture Max there. I tried to imagine lying in this bed with him, talking through how it would be. We would make it look like a terrible accident, maybe a suicide, and we would run away together with the children, somewhere peaceful, to the seaside, to Brighton. I would go on ahead so as not to arouse suspicion, and he would join me there. Then I read Annabelle's diary and everything changed. I felt guilty, vulnerable and on edge. I was too scared to take the risk of leaving our home. I remember my sense that DCI Watkins wanted more from me. Perhaps it wasn't just my infidelity he hoped to flush out, but the fact that I was an accessory to a crime that went wrong, a murder attempt that quite literally misfired. I can't believe it of myself, but I can't dismiss the possibility out of hand now that Dom has planted the idea in my mind. Maybe I really am a guilty wife as well as a bad mother, and this is my punishment. Max tried to kill me and failed. Dom is going to finish the job his brother started. I try not to be completely swallowed up by fear. At least I'm not afraid of the dark anymore. I spent enough time trapped inside my own mind. But I am frightened of Dom. I've lived intimately with him for so many years, and yet listening to him now, I barely recognise him. I can't let terror take hold, though, because if I do, I think there's a strong chance I might lose my mind completely. Then I will have proved Dom right, and he really will have won. But alone, in this cold, dark room, there is nothing to divert or distract me. No outward sights to pull my gaze away from looking inwards to the darkness of terror. Perhaps if I trick myself into believing that I'm just having a weekend lie-in, that this is all perfectly ordinary. I remember joking to Dom that I'd give anything for just one night alone in a hotel. One evening when I could have a long, relaxing bubble bath without someone hammering on the door needing to use the bathroom. When I could sleep without having to get up in the night to pull up the twins' blankets or fetch a glass of water, and wake up when my own body clock decided it was the right time. I remember Dom rolling over in bed to give me a lazy, wry smile as the twins bounced into our bedroom, jumping all over the bed and telling me to wake up, sleepyhead, it's Fun Day Sunday. I remember Dom pulling Annabelle into the bed for a cuddle and Aidan offering to bring me a glass of juice. I remember my quiet, ordinary, happy family life. And it all feels like a world away and a lifetime ago. tears sting my eyes. Everything is such a mess, and I'm gripped by an overpowering feeling of having let both my children down, not just Annabel, and I know this guilt will haunt me until my dying day, which I'm beginning to fear may come sooner rather than later. 38. I smell cigarette smoke and whiskey. The acrid combination teases its way through my nostrils, catching sharply at the back of my throat. I open my eyes to look around me, but there is only blackness. I lie rigid as I feel a hand stroking my hair. I try not to move. I try not to breathe. Am I going to wake up and this will all be a dream? I remember the first time Dom visited me in the hospital. I dreamed then of someone smothering me, a rough palm gagging my mouth. Am I having the same nightmare? Or did Dom really try to... Morning, sleepyhead. It's a beautiful day. Such a shame you won't get to see it. The overhead light snaps on and I blink in the weak, grainy glow. Everything comes flooding back to me. Max's house. Dom locking me up in this room before returning home to the twins. My children who still think I'm asleep in the hospital. Annabel, missing the kids, are you? I hear Dom's slow, laboured breaths next to my ear. He's just arrived. He's out of breath from running up the stairs. I've been here all night. Another night away from my children. He's close to me. I can feel the heat of his presence. There are tiny specks of blood on his white shirt collar, and I can smell his citrus aftershave. It mingles with whiskey fumes evaporating from his skin, and I want to shift away. But I cannot move. Why can't I move? You know I am. The words are razor blades tearing my throat to shreds. That's such a shame. They're not missing you at all. Lucy has taken them swimming, and then they're all going out for a pizza with Jasper. We might go and see a film later this afternoon. Plenty of quality weekend time together while lazy mummy carries on sleeping. I shake my head from side to side, wondering why the rest of my body feels trapped, immobile. Have I had some kind of physical relapse? Dom tuts loudly, and in the gloom it sounds like acid on metal. You really shouldn't fight it, you know. You can't win. I can hear the smile in his voice. I let my body go slack. He's right. There's no point fighting anymore. Dom clearly hasn't finished with me yet, and he isn't going to release me until he's said his piece, completed whatever agenda he's working through. I just hope he makes it quick. I will myself to lie still and appear compliant, biding my time. When did you get to be so cruel? Why do you hate me so much? We still had a chance. We could have made everything right again, I say persuasively. There were good times, weren't there? Don't you remember? Surely they haven't all been wiped out by one stupid decision I didn't even go through with. Is that what you think this is all about? Plotting to run away with Max? Is that really your only crime? I could get splinters from his voice. I have no idea what you mean, I say, my mind whirling as Dom switches track yet again, constantly trying to destabilise and confuse me. I have to stay resolute. If I give him an inch, I know he'll take a mile. Oh, come off it. Think. All those years together, what did you call them? The good times? Me out there working all hours to build up my business, you sitting around at home with the kids, Max popping in for afternoon tea and cake, all of you having fun without me, enjoying the home I paid for. He paces up and down the room as he delivers his bitter lecture. Is that how you saw it, Dom? I'm genuinely shocked. That I was some kind of freeloader. Not that I was trying to run a happy family home, supporting and looking after you, raising our children. Our children. He grates out the words, his eyes petrol blue, flashing fire. "Yes, our babies, Dom," I say huskily, trying to keep the tremor out of my voice, trying to appeal to the strong paternal instinct I know he has. "They wouldn't want you to treat me like this, Dom. They love you. I know they do, but they love me too. We brought them into this world and you brought them into the world, Madeline." He leans over the bed, spitting my name at me, tiny pinpricks of saliva hitting my face. "Well, if you want to be strictly technical about it, yes," I say, trying to grasp where he's going with this. Old habits kicking in as I try to second-guess him so that I can anticipate his complaints and mollify them. But we made them, both of us, and they need both of us. Please don't keep them from me any longer. My resolve cracks, and I plead with him, even though I know from experience that once I've started begging, his cruelty will increase, fueled by his sense of power over me. They need me too. Do they? They don't even know I'm awake. A wave of helpless fury surges through me, and I wiggle and twist my body, more defiantly this time, desperately trying to sit up, move, do anything other than lie here like a lamb to the slaughter while he torments me. "You can't keep my children from me. I won't let you," I say fiercely. But no matter how much I wriggle and writhe about, I can't sit up. He tied me up while I slept. A cold sweat breaks out on my skin as I realise my hands and feet are bound. My threats are empty and Dom knows it. "Oh, you won't? That's very interesting. So tell me, what exactly do you plan to do about it?" He reaches out to stroke my hair, his fingers trailing down my cheek, across my lips, pressing inside them to probe the soft flesh inside my mouth. I feel sick at his touch. I taste cigarettes on his finger and it makes me want to vomit. I wrench my head to one side and he chuckles as he withdraws his hand and straightens up. "I hate you for this, Dom. If you've hurt them, I will kill you. Just stay away from them. They're mine." So this is what murderous rage feels like, I think, my fists clenching with a will of their own. I squeeze them so tightly I almost think they might snap the cords I can now feel around my wrists. I didn't know I was capable of such fury. Maybe I did know about Max's gun after all. Maybe I... "You're absolutely right." His voice is light, almost playful now. He looks down at me, his hands resting casually on his hips. "Sorry?" I stop writhing, shocked at his capitulation and the low, nasty undercurrent in his voice. "Oh, don't apologise, that's quite all right," he says politely, and then he crawls onto the bed, lying down next to my rigid body so that we are side by side in Max's bed. A parody of a happily married couple chatting together before bedtime. We're not touching, but he's near enough that every nerve ending in my body screams at his closeness. After all, it's true. What is? He turns to roll his big, heavy body on top of mine, his mouth so close to my ear that his breath fills it, half deafening me, so I have to strain to hear his biting words. "The children are yours, Maddie, but they're not mine, are they?" 39. My eyes burn from staring into the half-light. I grind my teeth together and try to press myself into the mattress, desperate to alleviate the weight of Dom bearing down on me, recoiling from the touch of him on my skin, his hot breath on my face. Memories flash into my mind of him poised above me so many times over the years, his powerful arms braced either side of my head, his hips constricting my legs as he made me wait, a tiger hunched over its prey, taking its time, waiting for the perfect moment to bite. Crushed beneath him, it takes a huge, bruising effort to draw breath to speak. But when I finally manage to sum up the strength, I find I have no words. I can't think of a single thing to say. The twins aren't his children? Then in the next instant, is this another of his tricks? I had doubts from the beginning, of course. He continues, almost conversationally. I'm always careful. I may take risks in business, but I've never taken chances when it comes to fucking around. I feel his fingers dig into my hip bone and my stomach convulses with an involuntary shudder. He grinds into me and tears of pain and fear slide out of the corners of my eyes. What doubts? What have you never told me? I remember Dom's angry confession that we were almost bankrupt and wonder how it's possible to be married to someone for 10 years and yet know so little about what's going on in their life, their head. He wrenches himself off me, and the feeling of release is so intense that I cough, struggling to get air back into my lungs. My fragile body still aches from the weight of him. My side hurts so much that I wonder if he's actually cracked a rib. I want to touch them, to find out. But I'm flat on my back, wrists and ankles bound, and all I can do is lie here listening to his deep voice spilling hate into the damp air. The twins' hair was a bit of a shock for starters. I'm not blind, I'm not an idiot. I saw the sideways look the midwife gave us. You're more blonde than redhead, but at the time I just put it down to genetics. Maybe your mother or grandmother had red hair, I told myself. I gave you the benefit of the doubt. I wanted to. You seem like such a nice, polite, middle-class girl. Growing up on this shithole of an estate, I wanted a piece of that. You make it sound so romantic, I say in a choked voice, shock still rippling through me. Romance. So that's what you wanted. He swivels round on the bed to glare at me. And there was me thinking I was giving you everything you'd ever dreamed of by working 24/7 to support a wife and 2 kids that weren't even mine. I remember his proposal to me in the Oxo Tower restaurant after we found out I was expecting the twins. I remember my surprise that he was so certain about us getting married immediately. He just wanted what I represented, I realised sadly. A suitable wife, a ready-made family. Perhaps he genuinely believed the twins were his, or perhaps he had doubts. It hardly seems to matter now. By his own admission, he just wanted a piece of that. And yet he's never, over the years, given me any indication of his suspicions. We had a good life, a happy marriage for the first years of the twins' lives. I know we did. Maybe it was only when our marriage started to flounder that his doubts pressed more heavily on his mind. Maybe when his business started to struggle, he felt emasculated, and worries about the twins' paternity began to consume him. But, Dom, there's been nobody else but you, I swear, I say. What makes you think that? I ask in a hoarse whisper, wishing I could see his face, but he's turned his head away. Interestingly enough, it was Max who pointed it out to me, my beloved brother. He stares straight ahead, his back and shoulders rigid. The evening before the twins' birthday. We spent most of our lives barely tolerating each other, but I owe him for that one. For opening my eyes to what was going on right under my nose. Max? You're not seriously going to suggest that Max was the twins' father? I didn't even meet him until our wedding. What do you... He'd worked it out. I told you he was clever. Far cleverer than me. I didn't even see it coming. Meet me in the Bell Inn for a drink, he said. I need to talk to you. So, like a mug, I bought him 6 whiskies, and he dropped his little bomb about you two being in love. Idiot that I am, I defended you. You'd never break our family apart, I said. And I told him straight, I would never let you take my children away from him. Do you know what he did? He laughed in my face. Oh, the twins don't belong to you, little brother. Haven't you worked that out by now? He was talking rubbish, Dom. Absolute rubbish, I say passionately. You never listened to anything he said. Why did you believe him now? I didn't. Well, not immediately anyway. I dismissed it all and told him he could rot in hell. But then, you see, I came home and found your suitcase, and I realised he'd been telling the truth. You were planning to leave me. You were betraying me with my own brother. It was hardly a big step from there to believing Max was also right about the twins, that I wasn't their biological father. Just for a moment, my sense of hearing more acute in the dim room. I can hear the old Dom. I can pick up on his pain, the unbelievable hurt he must have felt when Max taunted him that Annabelle and Aidan weren't his children. Daddy's princess. He's always doted on his little girl in particular. Believing there was no blood tie between them would have been a devastating blow. It's not true. He was trying to upset you. I have no idea why or what he hoped to achieve, but he was lying. I was leaving you, and I admit I can't remember whether that had anything to do with Max, but the children are yours, I say firmly. Who else could possibly be their father? I didn't even bother trying to speculate. Dom had simply misunderstood his brother, I was sure of it. The twins don't belong to you. Max could just have been implying that Annabelle and Aidan weren't his possessions, or that Dom had lost his family loyalty through his aggression. Max had simply been playing games, perhaps in retaliation for the way Dom continually taunted and rejected him. He'd wanted to rattle his younger brother's cage, and he picked his biggest Achilles heel, male pride. I could almost feel sorry for Dom if he hadn't just kidnapped me and tied me up on his dead brother's bed. Well, my guess is that lecturer guy you were always mooning over. He turns to look at me, eyebrows raised. Shay, I say faintly, my thoughts suddenly spinning. Scottish guy, curly auburn hair, he says pointedly. I was your rebound guy, wasn't I? You pretended to be so shy and timid, but your lecturer had already taught you more than a thing or two. Hadn't he? It wasn't like that. I wasn't on the rebound. I fell in love with you, I protest heatedly. But then he dumped you, so you settled for me. Hard-working, well-dressed, but not quite smart enough, eh? A businessman, not an intellectual, and a failing one at that. I haven't exactly set the world on fire. I've always been proud of you, I insist quietly. You're the one who always wanted to conquer the world, not me. But Max was devious. He knew how to get what he wanted. He always did in the end. He could see things were going pear-shaped between us, so like the attention-seeker he was, he muscled in on my family, and he couldn't wait to let me know all about it. The night before the twins' birthday, when you'd been out drinking, I recall with a sinking feeling. So that's what Dom was looking for as he lurched and bumped around our bedroom after midnight. Evidence that what Max had just told him about my infidelity was true. And he'd been convinced he found it. My suitcase. Drowning my sorrows, I think you'll find it's called. Part of me is desperate to plead my innocence, tell him he's wrong. But the other part of my mind is already flying back to that heady week with Shay after the summer break and before the new university term started. I thought I'd seen the last of him. I had no idea I might have been staring into the beautiful faces of his children every day for 10 years. Annabelle is so theatrical, so exuberantly animated. Aidan is a big reader, a deep thinker. They both have red hair, but then my hair is strawberry blonde. There are as many differences as there are similarities. I can't be sure. I wonder if that's why all my memories of Shay came back to me in the bright dark, haunting my unconscious mind. And I question myself whether, deep down, I've always had a suspicion that I'd fallen pregnant after sleeping with him. that there had been a perfectly logical explanation behind the confusion about my due date. Had I suspected as much even when Dom proposed to me? He clearly thinks I'm capable of the worst kind of deception, and I'm beginning to feel like I don't know myself at all, or what I'm capable of. A sudden thought flashes through me. Shay moved to Brighton. Was it Shay, not Max, I was running to? I remember taking the twins there. I remember my sense that there was someone I was supposed to be meeting. Had I finally decided that Shay was the twins' father and made contact with him? I wait for more memories to surface, but nothing comes. I can picture his face, recall his theatrical charm, but I can no more imagine rekindling my old affair with Seamus Jackson than I can envision starting a new one with Max. But you don't have any proof, I say, struggling to believe any of this is really happening. What makes you so sure? DNA tests are easy these days. Swab of saliva, pop it in the post, Bob's your uncle. Or not, as the case may be. So, have you had one done? I ask breathlessly. They're still your children, Dom, I say when he doesn't reply. In every way that counts, you are their father. Oh, don't throw that it's just biology crap at me. If I'm not their real father, I don't give a shit about them, or you. He swings his legs off the bed and stands up. I don't believe you. More fool you. Yes, I am a fool. I've believed every kind word, every tender touch since he came to the hospital. I was so busy beating myself up for my own guilt, I never thought to question his. But he's known about all of this since that first visit, I realise. I remember Professor Hernandez telling me how the nurse needed help to pull Dom off me, how he'd been consumed by distress, shaking me to try to wake me up. He wasn't trying to wake me up, I see now. He was trying to make me stay asleep, forever. My life is going to end in this dark place. I feel it in every trembling part of me. Hope deserts me for long moments until I think of Annabelle and Aidan, my babies. Always my babies, even though they are grown children now. I have to get back to them. So what happens now? You can't keep me locked up here forever. We can start again. We can work things out. I begin to panic as awareness creeps over me that our discussion is coming to an end. I feel like Dom has finally said his piece. He spilled out his grievances, and if the twins really aren't his children, he has absolutely no reason to care about me any longer. Or them. My children are in serious danger. Everything he's told me crystallizes into this one certainty. I shake my head back and forth, frantically rocking my body to see if I can dislodge the cords restraining me. That's good, he drawls, moving closer, and then I feel one big hand landing on the centre of my chest, pinning me down. I'm glad you're feeling stronger, so you'll be in a fit state of mind to know exactly how it feels to lose everything that really matters to you. No, please don't hurt my children. Okay, I was leaving you, Dom. That much, I believe, is true. But you have to understand, I was scared of the rows, the bruises. I needed to get out. I wanted to feel safe again. I wanted to know that my children were safe. Children? Or just Aidan? His voice is ice on glass. What do you mean? I've always wondered, you see. No favourites, that's what you've always said. Always the perfect mother, but such a flawed wife. You deserved punishment for your infidelity alone, for making a fool of me all these years. But that wasn't quite enough. It's not enough for me to win, you see. You have to lose everything. I've never said I'm perfect, and I don't have favourites. I love them both. He was digging the knife into the deepest, darkest core of my shame, taking me back to the heart of my guilt, my self-loathing, the choice I made. He'd always picked on me about favouring my son. He was never going to let that go, even now when he believed that neither of the children were his. But I knew, you see. You saved Aiden once, and I knew you'd do it again. You're a terrible mother. The very worst. I knew it, and I wanted you to die knowing it. I wanted you to go to your grave knowing you were capable of saving one child and sacrificing another. I wanted you, finally, to choose one. Bitch. Part 4. 40. My breath rasps in my throat, and there is a ton weight of fear crushing my chest as I hear the words I will never forget. Because suddenly I know that I've heard my husband say them once before. On a sunny morning at the end of May, the perfect day for a pool party, the twins' 10th birthday. Choose one, bitch. And finally, I remember. I remember it was the day before the twins' birthday, and I was as nervous as a cat about to have kittens. My suitcase was packed and tucked away in the back of the wardrobe. Dom was working late, so he said. I knew he was out drinking, as he was most nights. I knew he would be home later, expecting to exert his conjugal rights, followed up with a punch if he wasn't completely satisfied. I remember Max had stopped by with a new DVD. I'd invited him to stay and watch it with us, but he seemed jittery and said he was meeting someone for a drink. So I left the twins watching the film and trailed nervously around the house, checking a cupboard here and a bookshelf there, making sure I hadn't forgotten anything they would miss. For myself, I could have walked away with just the clothes I stood up in. I was leaving Dom, taking the children to a place of safety, and I didn't care if we were flat broke for the rest of our lives as long as we were free. I hadn't told Annabelle and Aiden that we'd be leaving after their party. I didn't want to spoil their birthday, and I also knew how impossible they'd find it not to give something away. Dom would pick up on their nervous anticipation and all would be lost. But he would be going to the train station straight after the party, heading up to Manchester for a meeting. Then all I had to do was smuggle the kids and our suitcase out of the back gate, where I'd walk down the alley to meet the taxi I'd arranged to wait for us at the end of the road. I checked my purse for the 100th time. I still had the key to Lucy's holiday cottage in Brighton. It was unbelievably generous of her to let us stay there for a while, but she'd insisted it was no problem. She'd bought the cottage a couple of years ago, after inheriting money from a great-aunt, and she'd been renting it out to tourists. It was going to be the place she retired to, she said. Since leaving Devon, she'd never stopped yearning to live by the sea again. But she had to make some more money out of the deli first. She was more than happy for me and the kids to use her cottage as a bolt hole. I'd already met the managing agent in Brighton a couple of times, under the pretext of taking the twins for a seaside day trip, and everything was sorted. Train tickets booked, accommodation arranged, taxi to arrive half an hour after the last party guests left. Annabelle and Aiden would be upset, though. I was worried about that. I'd always taken great pains to hide any bruises, and although I knew they were much quieter around their father than they were around me, I'd put that down to his being that much louder. Most people faded into the background around Dom. It didn't mean the twins were frightened of him. Or did it? I couldn't be entirely sure, and that was the biggest part of my reason for leaving. I would never let anything bad happen to my children. I'd given them life, and they were my life. I remember looking for something to hide in the suitcase to comfort Annabelle on our first night. I slipped into her bedroom and quickly looked around for anything that would bring a smile to her face. She'd been growing up so fast lately, abandoning teddies in favour of teen magazines. But she was devoted to Panda. I couldn't pack him in the case, though. She slept with his soft, furry body clutched against her every night, and she would definitely miss him at bedtime. There had to be something else. A toy she'd perhaps forgotten about and would be happy to see again. So happy that it would take her mind off the fact that we were runaways. I remember reaching under her bed, my hand sweeping around in search of something, anything. I remember the shock as my palm made contact with the sharp, pointed corner of a hardback book. I remember scooping the book out from under the bed and smiling at the picture on the cover. White roses. I'd bought the diary for Annabel as somewhere for her to write little stories about her life, but I had forgotten all about it. She probably had too, I thought, deciding to have a quick peek inside. Shock. Devastation. I remember those feelings and how my body felt paralysed with them. I remember kneeling on Annabel's floor, my hands shaking, nausea churning in my stomach. I reached for Panda and I cried into his tummy, sobbing until my throat hurt, my chest burning with the effort of making no noise so that I wouldn't be heard. I remember trying to talk to Annabel in her room, trying to coax her to open up, feeling desperate, despairing and frustrated when she wouldn't. And guilt surged through me. I hadn't known. I hadn't protected her. I'd failed her. But whoever was doing this to her, I would find out. I would do everything I could to make them pay. But only once we were at a safe distance. I had to stick to the plan. I had to get the children away and then everything would be all right. I believed that. I just had to hold everything together until after the party. I just had to act normal, as if nothing unusual was happening, as if everything was completely fine. I spent the evening in a daze, piling up the twins' birthday presents in the living room after they'd gone to bed, attaching happy 10th birthday balloons to the pile with ribbons, purple for Annabel, red for Aiden. When Dom came home later, he was drunk and I pretended to be asleep. I remember him stumbling around the room, slamming through cupboards, bumping into walls. I remember the hot, rough hand sliding over my hip. I remember it sliding round to my breasts, squeezing them until I thought I would cry out in pain and betray the fact that I wasn't asleep. His hand shoving me over onto my stomach, his body slumping heavily on top of me. I remember pain, my head yanked back by my hair, a burning sensation between my legs as he spread my thighs apart and jerked violently inside me, once, twice, 3 times, grunting as he rolled off me. I remember lying awake in bed all night, just waiting for the light of dawn and the start of the last day I would ever have to put up with this misery. Then in the half-light, as night surrendered to morning, I remember the row, Dom's anger before he stormed out. And everything fast-forwards from that point, decorating the cake, chatting with the twins, a smile on my face, but my mind frantically rehearsing everything I had to do after the party. Suitcase, photo, tickets, everything that was precious to me. Grab the twins and go. I squeeze my eyes tightly shut, and Max's dark, dank bedroom slides away, and I'm right back there in my own home on the morning of the twins' 10th birthday. "41. I can't believe you actually made that cake all by yourself. Aiden looked up from his DS to watch me pressing candles into the soft icing, my tongue sticking out of the side of my mouth in concentration. No offence taken, love, I joked, but Lucy did give me a hand. It's one of her recipes. Oh, I might have a bit then. Annabel, reclining on the sofa like an off-duty princess, flicking through a magazine, poked her head up over the arm. Is she coming swimming too? Or are all the grown-ups going to sit in the cafe and gossip? Cheeky monkey, I said, opening a second packet of candles. You'll come in the pool with us, Mum, won't you? I blessed Aiden for not yet being embarrassed at having his mum hanging around. How many more birthdays until the twins just wanted to do their own thing? Course I will, love. Wouldn't miss the chance to dunk you both now, would I? Mums have to get their revenge somehow for all the trouble you kids cause. You love us really, though, Annabel said confidently. What would you do if you didn't have us to boss around? What indeed? I exchanged another glance with Aidan, a smiling conspiracy, both of us happily indulging his sister's conviction that she was the centre of our universe. After all, it was true. Star. And yes, I love you both loads. You're the best things that ever happened to me. Oh, Mum, don't be soft, Annabel said, rolling her eyes. The doorbell buzzed and our laughter died. The twins exchanged glances, and I saw in their deliberately bland expressions that they had indeed both heard the row this morning. Damn. I saw questions flicker across their pale, softly freckled faces, so similar in features, yet so different in expression. Annabel's defiant, chin raised, reluctant to show any anxiety. Aidan's troubled, almost identical blue eyes wide with concern. Was it Daddy come back to apologise for storming out? Would he be in one of his good moods? Or would he have taken to the clubhouse after his round of golf, as he's taken to doing lately? Would he stumble round the house, impatient with every stray toy and unironed shirt? I felt sad for a moment that he'd missed out on our lovely morning. He'd been a good dad, I acknowledged with a sigh. We'd been a happy family for the best part of 10 years. But today, for the first and last time ever, he'd missed the twins' favourite lemony, sugary pancake breakfast. He'd missed the delicious crackle of wrapping paper as I rearranged the pile of presents in one corner of the living room, ready to open later. I'll get it, Mum. You carry on. You're doing a great job, Aidan said seriously, as he laid his DS carefully on the coffee table and headed into the hall. Hang on a minute, love. You know I don't like you answering the door to strangers. Sudden, breathless fear, not premonition. I didn't believe in that. Just my mum radar, as Lucy always called it. Or perhaps simply a legacy of my overprotective neurosis when the children were babies. Who says it's a stranger? Annabel tossed down her magazine and leaped to her feet. It might be Uncle Max. He said he had an extra special surprise for us. Huh. I rolled my eyes, hoping it wasn't yet another unsuitable DVD. I needed to tell Max to stop turning up with knockoffs he'd got from his mates on the estate. Perhaps I also needed to have a tactful conversation with him about not coming round here quite so often. I looked at my watch. It couldn't be Max, though. He wasn't due for another half an hour. He wouldn't have had a chance yet to pick up the extra rackets to play tennis in the garden later. Just give me one more sec, I said, thinking it was most likely Dom trying to niggle me by making me open the door for him, forcing me to dance attendance on him after our row earlier. Well, he could wait, and he could damn well say sorry for being so nasty this morning. Plucking the last candles out of the packet, I carefully pressed them into the soft blue icing, sat back and licked my fingers as the last one slid into the cake. Perfect. I'll be right there, I called out, feeling anxious now, worrying I'd push my luck if I kept Dom waiting any longer. I hurried after the twins into the hall, frowning as I saw the bulky silhouette in the frosted glass-panelled front door. It didn't look like Dom. His clothes were always so stylish, his shape broad but not hulking. Annabel seemed to read my mind. It's the postman, bet you. Look at that giant shadow through the glass. He must have the most humongous stack of presents. Hope one of them is a new Xbox, said Aidan, hovering at Annabel's shoulder as she reached for the front door latch. I smiled secretly to myself, thinking of the PlayStation in his pile of presents. I'd found it in an end-of-season sale and knew he'd be so excited, as I hoped Annabel would be about the tickets I'd bought her for her first ballet at the Royal Opera House. I'd already asked Lucy to bring whatever gifts I couldn't carry down to Brighton with her when she visited, and I'd hidden a couple of little surprise gifts in our suitcase too, for the twins to open later, after Dom had headed off to Manchester and we were safely in Lucy's cottage. "You know your dad's not keen on video games," I said, trying to measure his disappointment. Dom was so rarely home to play with the kids, and any time he was here, he spent glued to his phone and laptop. "That's because he always wants to win and hates getting shot," Aidan excused his dad, and I heard the edge in his voice even as he rolled his eyes and laughed. I joined in with the laughter, another conspiracy of smiles. Neither of us wanted to admit we were anxious about Daddy coming home. For a second, the sunshine completely blinded me as Annabelle swung the front door open and the bright morning light flooded our hallway with summer warmth. It was the perfect day for a birthday. The perfect day for heading off to the pool with a bunch of good friends, hanging out in the back garden later, chatting and eating cake, feeling glad that the last terrible 9 months were behind us. Forever. Soon we would be gone. By the time Dom got back from Manchester, we'd be safely in our new home. He wouldn't be able to find us, and any future meetings would have to be arranged through solicitors and supervised. I was still picturing Lucy's seaside cottage as my eyes finally managed to focus through the glare. And for a second I couldn't take in what I was seeing. Rough, old-fashioned army fatigues, a balaclava, a gloved hand reaching out for the twins. "Mummy!" My legs almost gave way and my heart seemed to stop as Annabelle was dragged from the doorway round the side of the house. I stumbled after her, my flip-flops catching on the front doorstep. My scream stuck deep in my throat as I watched Annabelle's fingers graze along the pebble-dashed wall, bloodying as she frantically grabbed onto anything that might help her escape the tall, bulky figure, his heavy boots carving a scar across my neat lawn as he yanked my daughter towards the seclusion of the rose bushes. Aidan stumbled after her, his eyes dry with fear and his slender arms reaching out for his sister. His clenched fists were no defence against the powerful gloved hand that grabbed him tightly by his shirt collar, effortlessly lifting him off the ground so that his arms flailed and his legs kicked uselessly. I needed a weapon. I needed something heavy to strike out with. One of the twins' swimming trophies, or one of Dom's golfing ones that he'd always polished so meticulously. I looked around me for a spade, a gardening fork, anything. But there was nothing. I had no means of protecting them, and Annabelle's screams reverberated in my chest like the tremors of an earthquake as I tried to run, my legs turning to lead, clawing my body through the thick, sweet summer air towards my children. "Don't you dare lay a finger on my daughter!" The gun pointed to each of us in turn, and a maelstrom of fear set my head spinning. I clawed my way through the air to get to my children, terror clouding my eyes, the world closing in on me until I was trapped in tunnel vision. The twins seemed to kaleidoscope away from me, achingly vulnerable little people in their cool new birthday outfits, dwarfed by the murderous power of violence. "Run! Hide! Don't look back!" I launched myself in front of them, throwing my arms wide as I forced the words from my terror-constricted throat. "Choose one, bitch. Choose me." He didn't hesitate. He fired. My ears were deafened by the bang. I felt Annabelle make a grab for my hand at the last second before she reached for Aidan and pulled him after her, across the grass towards the French windows at the back of the house. My mind filled with an apology I couldn't speak. "I'm so sorry to leave you, my loves." I felt myself slump towards the rose bushes, my hands reaching out to clasp great handfuls of petals, thorns shredding my skin. It reminded me of Annabelle's diary and how I would never get to make things all right now. My head rested in the soft, mulchy grass, and for a split second I saw feet, trainers, a box of rackets and tennis balls ready for party games, long legs in tracksuit bottoms, a backpack by his side. Max. My fingers squeezed the silky softness of the white roses. And then there was darkness.
End of Disc 7. Disc 8.
42. Max arrived after I was shot. Realization burns across my skin like a fever, leaving a scalding trail of fear that sets my body trembling. Then in the next second, a wave of relief that washes away pain. I said, choose me. I fought for both my children. I tried my hardest to protect them equally. I thought mothers weren't supposed to have favourites. That's what you've always told me. His angry accusation is laced with pained bitterness. And I meant it. I don't, I protest, feeling strength return to my body as I finally remember the events of that morning. After all the conversations I'd had with the doctor about sounds and smells prompting memories, it took only 2 words to trigger mine. Choose one. They crystallize the essence of what it means to me to be a mother. I didn't choose. But suddenly I realize why Dom needs to believe I did. Because if I am capable of choosing one child over another, it means all parents are. It means that just because Max was the idolized big brother, Dom was still valued. He wasn't unlovable, a failure. Parental bias is normal. For a fleeting moment, I feel sad as the realization sinks in that Dom has projected onto me every last atom of the resentment and childhood insecurity that has never left him. My supposed fatal flaw, my favoritism of Aidan over Annabelle, holds the key to Dom's redemption. In order to believe in himself again, he needs me to affirm that I did make that choice. I remember his dogged fierceness as he talked about his family when we first met. It's not about pride, it's about vindication. He's finally got one over on his big brother, and he's punished me to justify his actions. He picked a hell of a way to make his point, but I refuse to make him feel better, to give him the vindication he's been craving since his parents died without acknowledging that Dom was the strong one, the successful son. The smell of smoke is strong, drawing me out of my thoughts. I look up and see the bright red tip of a cigarette arcing through the darkness. There is a tall, dark shadow against the wall. It moves, shifting like a ghost through the gloom, edging closer to the side of the bed. A slim beam of light slithers through the gap around the boarded-up window, outlining the bulky shape in an eerie glow. The silhouette twists and glides next to me, bending over me until the sliver of light casts twin glints in his blue eyes. Are you quite sure about that? You seemed pretty convinced to me that Annabelle was dead. He mocks me, and I have to strain my ears to catch his words. If I couldn't see and smell the smoke curling up from his cigarette, I could half imagine it was the voice of my conscience metamorphosed into a malignant spirit, haunting me with what will always remain my darkest secret. The fact that I did believe, even for a heartbeat, that I might have given up my daughter. It shames me, even as I know the truth. The guilt is entirely his. But I have to hold on to that. I can't let him mess with my head anymore. It's over, or it soon will be. Was I supposed to die? I say softly, feeling a flutter inside me at the thought that it was Annabelle's hand reaching out to grab me at the last moment that meant the bullet only grazed instead of obliterating my brain. I'm glad you didn't, he says, because you're going to suffer so much more living without your children. Death would have been merciful, he tells me, but I'm not an unreasonable man. I can do mercy. If you ask me nicely enough, I might yet grant you that release. Call it a sort of final tribute to our marriage, a belated 10th anniversary gift. He gives me a wry look. Funny, eh? I always said I would never let you go, but suddenly I find that I can. Oh, so easily. Stop playing games with me, Dom, I say quietly, determined not to let him intimidate me any more with sick threats. You've made your point, and you've dragged me through hell and back. It has to end here. You won't get away with this, I had hoarsely, trying to ignore the shiver running up my spine. Oh, but I already have. Max has conveniently taken the rap for me, which is only fair after all. I've got feelings for a special lady in your life, he said, and I'm sure she returns them. He sat opposite me in that pub and had the nerve to say he was worried how I'd feel about it, how hard he tried to stop feeling that way, how he tried to stay away but couldn't resist those blue eyes, that pretty hair, her soft skin. He looked me in the eye and said he was addicted to his sugar. But did he actually say he was in love with me, that we were... You think I'd give him the satisfaction of taunting me with details? The smug look on his face said it all. He was stealing my wife and he wanted me to know it, to know that I'd lost you, and that the kids were never mine in the first place. He wanted to take everything from me. So I've given it to him. All the blame and half the punishment. The other half is yours, sweetheart. You just couldn't go a day without seeing him, could you? Not even on your children's birthday. Max was lying. Or you've jumped to the wrong conclusion. You should have talked to me about it, but you didn't. You never have. You always just assume the worst about me. You didn't play golf that morning, did you? I say, my mind replaying the dreadful sequence of events. Of course I didn't. You'd already told me Max was arriving at 10. All I had to do was change in the shed and wait. I'd already stashed my dad's old kit bag in there, ready to clean the gun, just as Max asked me to. He smirks. Your dad's old army clothes, sitting there in your terrifying disguise, holding his gun, waiting for the right moment to... My voice rises hysterically as I picture it all. Max was early. It all happened a lot faster than I intended. I was rushing, or I wouldn't have missed my aim. His smirk turns into a frown. I saw his feet under the rose bushes. I don't need Dom to confirm it. My mind hasn't stopped picturing those rose bushes for weeks, and I knew there had to be a reason they'd lodged so deeply in my imagination. You shot me, then killed your own brother. He fought hard, I'll give him that. You should have seen the look on his face. He started this fight, but I had the last word. And he deserved to die. He fucked my wife, and then he taunted me about it. Not as clever as he thought, Max. He really believed that telling me about his sordid infatuation would put me in my place. He underestimated me, he grits out. It was supposed to be a double execution. The unfaithful wife, the disloyal brother. My first instinct about punishment being the motive was spot on. I just got the wrong man. It was Dom, not Max, who staged the scene. Max's death was part retribution, part expediency, a means of covering up Dom's crime. I can imagine the look on Max's face all too well. Whatever he said to Dom in the pub, whether he deliberately lied to provoke Dom or was simply teasing him to get back at his brother, he turned up that morning ready to help the twins have a happy birthday party, and instead he had a gun shoved in his hand and pointed at his head. I know exactly how that feels. And now it's your turn. He leans closer and something catches the faint beam of light, making it flash in the dark. A knife. Closer still. The blade gleams as it slices through the darkness. I grind my teeth together and close my eyes, picturing Annabelle and Aiden's faces, remembering how perfectly their bodies fit into my sides, cuddled safely against me. and how good it feels to stroke their hair and kiss them goodnight. I think of them as tiny babies, the heat of their soft bodies as I tucked them into the crook of my arm. I picture them as curious toddlers, kicking their little boots through autumn leaves in excitement. I remember picnics and plays, sports days and swimming galas, cheering the twins on when they won, comforting them when they lost. My beautiful twins, so similar to look at, yet each unique in personality, Annabel daring, Aidan so shy, both hovering on the brink of their teenage years. Little people in the making. My little people. I've heard it said that a person's life is supposed to flash in front of their eyes as they think they're about to die. But it's my children's happily, haphazard, precious lives that play in my imagination as I stare at Dom's face and acknowledge the cold, hard, inescapable truth. My husband is a killer. His hand brushes across my mouth, and instinctively I turn my face, sinking my teeth into the flesh of his palm. "You bitch, you fucking bitch!" He reels back. "I shouldn't have called that ambulance. I should have let you bleed to death." He climbs onto the bed, straddling me, his weight pressing down. I'm trapped, helpless. I want to fight, but there's no strength left in me. I feel my body giving up and hear a voice inside my head calling out to Annabel and Aidan, begging them to forgive me for leaving them yet again. Who will look after them when I'm gone? My mind feels fuzzy now. His thighs are crushing my chest, his knees squeezing the sides of my head like a vice, and I can scarcely draw a breath. I need to keep fighting. I can't give up. But I feel my strength leaving me. Soon I will vanish once more into the bright dark, only perhaps this time there will be no brightness, only bottomless, endless dark. Come on, Mum, don't be soft, you can do it. I try to resist as he grabs hold of my bound wrists with one hand and yanks them above my head. But the violent motion wrenches every ligament in my shoulders, and the pressure of his fingers on my bones leaves me weak with pain. I cry out, but the sound is muffled against his chest as he leans forward, the knife angled upwards. His arm jerks out, a stabbing punch, and there is a snapping noise. He's cut the cords around my wrists. My arms drop and I half groan, half wail. Sobs rack through my body and my lungs feel tight with fear. "I can't take any more," I whisper, rocking my head from side to side as he cuts the cords binding my ankles. "Please, it's enough." "You're right, but don't worry. There's only one more choice left for you to make, Maddie. I wonder if you will make it." "What is it?" There's hardly enough breath in my body to say the words. "A deal." "Oh, what kind of deal?" I don't trust Dom to keep his side of any bargain. Turns out I didn't need to go all the way to Manchester to be offered that job. My reputation preceded me. He brags. But I thought I might leave the decision to you. All you have to do is tell the police that you've remembered, that it was Max who shot you. Then I'll let you go. You'll never have to see me again. Or, and this is where you need to think carefully for once, if you can do that, I can leave you here to die. No one knows you're here, and by the time they find you, it'll be too late. So that's why you brought me here, to play your mind games with me, break me down until I give you a way out. But you won't get away with this. Lucy is quite happy at home with the children, and I'm sure she'd happily keep looking after them after the tragedy of your disappearance. When the police discover that you simply couldn't get over the death of your lover and you wash up on the Thames foreshore. You wouldn't. Lucy wouldn't. I don't believe you. I strain my voice to shout the words, as much to convince myself as to denounce Dom for the liar I know him to be. He's pacing the room now, but suddenly he strides towards the bed, towering over me, hand raised. Don't look so frightened, he says. reaching out a hand to stroke my hair. I flinch in recognition. It was you, wasn't it? Stroking my hair, trying to smother me as I slept, telling me I was just having nightmares when I woke up, choking. Twice I almost suffocated you, he says, looking pleased with himself. The first time when I signed the release forms for you to be put into a coma, and then again when I visited you. But then I figured it would be so much more fun to keep you alive, watch you suffer, watch me and Lucy. We're good together, if I do say so myself. We always have been. His wink is cocky. I tell myself he's bluffing. I've been wrong about Lucy, but I won't make that mistake again. I hope she has been looking after the twins, but I no longer believe she's been trying to steal them from me. I wouldn't wish my husband on my worst enemy, and I simply don't believe Lucy is that. She's in as much danger as the children, I think suddenly. She doesn't know I'm awake. She doesn't know Dom was the gunman. Maybe he's been spinning her a line all this time about Max, how worthless he was, how shameful my behaviour. Lucy won't realise she's living under the same roof as a killer. I hold my breath in horror at the thought. Or perhaps she does know. Perhaps Dom has so terrified her that she's forcing herself to stay quiet, play along and avoid lighting his short fuse, just as I did for all those years. He's holding her captive. The twins, too. You haven't hurt them, have you? I ask, the words grazing my throat, my eyes drawn to the tiny specks of blood on his shirt collar, surely from shaving cuts. If you've laid so much as a finger on my children, the fist crashing into the side of my face knocks me sideways and, taken by surprise, I tumble off the bed, landing heavily on the rough wood floor. Everything goes black for a second, and I rest my forehead on the boards, trying not to be sick. My cheekbone, already tender from banging it against the bathroom door frame, hurts so badly I can't believe it's not broken. Pain shoots into my temples. My head throbs. You have no right to question me. What business is it of yours what I do? You forfeited the right to ask anything of me the day you slept with my brother and lied about the twins being mine. But I didn't. I never. I can taste blood in my mouth, and I'm not sure where it's coming from. My left arm, bruised from taking all my weight when I fell, feels like it's no longer part of my body, and I have to concentrate hard to lift a hand to touch my face. My fingertips come away wet, but I can't tell if it's from my nose or the gash at the corner of my mouth. I look up at Dom and realise the cut must have been caused by his wedding ring. I can't believe he's actually wearing it. He hasn't returned mine to me, and I'm glad. Once I wore it with so much pride, until it became a symbol of subservience, then fear. I feel almost like I'm floating above the room, looking down at the pair of us. I see myself, damaged body, half-broken mind, and remember my surprised joy when Dom slipped his mother's sapphire engagement ring on my finger. The butterflies inside me as I said yes. The pride and joy I felt as we exchanged our wedding vows. You've got till tomorrow morning to make up your mind. I'll be back then for your decision. There is no question in my mind. I will do anything to protect my children, to get back to them. Daddy's the one who usually likes tricks. I look at the face of my husband, the man I once loved so much, and a terrible thought sinks like a stone to the bottom of my heart as he turns away from me and heads to the door, the key turning in the lock as he closes it behind him with a soft thud. Maybe I'm the last one to die. Maybe they're all already dead. 43. I shouldn't have let him leave. I should have kept him here. Said yes immediately to his sick deal. Anything to prevent him going home to the twins. What if he's lying again? What if he doesn't come back? I'm going to die alone here, barely able to move, starving to death, and no one will be able to help me, help my children. And it's my fault for not stopping him. Surely he wouldn't. It's one thing punishing me, but not the children. I can't believe he could hurt a child. Then I remember Annabelle's diary. Someone was trying to hurt her, and I still don't know who. And I want to read my daughter's words again to try to work out if there were any clues I missed. But where is it? I remember hunting frantically through the suitcase in the bright dark, my unconscious mind replaying my desperate search before the birthday party. One last check that everything was packed and ready. But I found only the tickets, the photo, and nothing else. The diary was gone. Has someone taken it? I remember my conviction that the man who pulled the trigger had a double motive, to punish me and to silence my daughter. The police told me Max was the gunman. Dom has schemed to lead me down the same blind alley. It was all a lie, a smokescreen, a cover-up. Now I realise it was actually Dom who fired that bullet, and I was the only target in his sights. Me and Max. And that changes everything. It means Max was a victim too, guilty of aggravating his brother, but not necessarily of grooming Annabelle. Maybe someone else was pestering her, a teacher, a neighbour, the parent of a friend. She drew cartoons of them all in her diary, and I freeze in horror at the thought that this monster could still be out there, plaguing her to this day. I wish I had Annabelle's diary to help me work out who did this. Max or a stranger, or someone close to our family. It's impossible to know, and I still can't get it out of my head that it just seemed so logical for the gunman and my daughter's would-be abuser to be one and the same man. Only the rules of logic don't apply here. Everything is being played out by Dom's rules. What was it he once said to me about the first rule of dating Dominic Castle? Expect the unexpected. Bluff and double bluff. Suddenly my heart starts pounding as I come full circle and wonder if my first gut instinct was right all along, that one monster is responsible for both crimes. And that can only mean that the man who was pestering Annabelle to touch him is returning home right this second, killing time while he waits for me to make my choice, to decide which way the axe should fall, if it hasn't fallen already. And now there is nothing and no one standing between my husband and my daughter. Minutes, hours pass. My nerves are in shreds. I try to stay calm. I must think logically. Dom, Max, or a stranger. Who was harassing my daughter? I think back to the words I remember from her diary. The disgusting touch of the man who was stalking her, his eyes following her round the room, not classroom, round the room. Under our own roof. Surely Max or Dom, it has to be one of them. But nothing I remember points to either, and once again I feel that sick desperation that I failed to protect my daughter, that I missed the signs. Were there any? I remember Annabelle's increasing self-consciousness. But she was growing up. Surely that body coyness is a natural development. I remember how she'd grown tired of Max's jokes and had started asking friends' mums for lifts home. She rolled her eyes when Max came round, and I remember telling her not to be rude when she asked how long he was staying as soon as we sat down to Sunday lunch one day. But children get bored of adults. There was surely nothing unusual in any of those things. And Dom, the tickle monster, always pulling his little princess in for a hug in passing, or for a lazy cuddle in bed at the weekends. But I was there the whole time. His affection towards the children was a good thing. Or was I just being naive? Annabelle had refused to tell me when I asked. She wouldn't give me a name, and I was loath to press her for details. sensing her distress and confusion. I'd planned to ask her again once we were in our place of safety. Only we never made it, and I need to know if I've just allowed a monster to walk back into my home. One who believes the children aren't his, who doesn't care about them anymore. I close my eyes and empty my mind and try to allow my memory to surface and give up the answer to my most pressing question of all. Who wanted to hurt my daughter? It's fine, Dom. It doesn't matter. Honest. It's been a long day after a hard week. We're both tired. I knew I should feel disappointment, but it was relief that surged through me as Dom rolled away from me and stood up. I pressed my head back into the pillows, trying not to move, just waiting for him to go. "I'll see you downstairs. I said I'd take the kids swimming." He yanked up his boxers unceremoniously and reached out for his chinos. It was Sunday afternoon, and the twins were watching the entire box set of an American comedy series that Max had brought round yesterday. Seeing how engrossed they were, Dom had gestured to me. It had taken me a couple of minutes to interpret his raised eyebrows. It was a long time since we'd done anything as spontaneously romantic as sneak into our bedroom in the middle of the afternoon. Eventually I'd got the message and we'd headed upstairs. But I'd felt awkward, on edge, knowing the children were just downstairs. And Dom had seemed impatient, almost angry. There was no attempt at seduction. He just wanted to lie down on the bed and get on with it. After the briefest rough fumble, though, it had become obvious that it wasn't going to happen. He'd hidden his embarrassment well, but I dreaded to think how he might take it out on me later. "That sounds nice," I told him. "It's been a while since we all went swimming together." I said I'll take them. It'll make a change for them to hang out in the pool with their dad instead of good old Uncle Max. And I'm taking them to Richmond, much nicer there. Not so many lecherous old pervs loitering around. Might treat them to pizza afterwards. "Sure, sounds lovely," I said, feeling excluded but acknowledging that Dom was right. He did need to spend more time with the children. Annabelle hadn't been so keen. "I want to watch this." Lying flat on the floor on her tummy, she didn't take her eyes off the screen. "The pool will be shut soon." Dom had all 3 swimming bags over his shoulder already. "Come on, Belle," Aidan said, pausing the DVD. "You can show off that new dive Uncle Max taught you last week. And we can have a dip in the jacuzzi afterwards too," Dom added. The twins always loved the hot bubbles, pretending they were floating on top of a volcano. "Really? Cool. As long as we don't have to go in the sauna. Uncle Max always makes us go in there after swimming, eh, Belle?" Aidan said. "Full of sweaty old men," Annabelle said over her shoulder, not looking round. "You've never mentioned that." I frowned. "I'll have a word with Uncle Max. I don't like the sound of that at all. They're not naked in there, are they?" "Don't be ridiculous," Dom said. "Well, I don't know, do I? You do change in a cubicle, don't you, Belle?" I continued, thinking I should insist on going along after all. "You don't get undressed in the communal bit." She was growing up so fast, and sometimes I didn't think she quite realised it. It was hard to counsel caution without making her overly self-conscious. I wanted her to be safe without making her paranoid. Public pools were such a nightmare of worry for parents, I thought. "Course I do, Mum," she said, looking at me like I'd lost my mind. "Most of the time anyway, if they're not all full." "She can come in a cubicle with me. I'll be fine. Stop worrying," Dom said. "Now, kids, no more stalling. Grab your things. Last one to the car has to answer to the tickle monster." The twins scrambled to their feet, leaving me to turn off the DVD and tidy up the mess of books, games and magazines strewn across the living room floor. I busied myself for the rest of the afternoon, trying not to worry about the children. They were safe with their dad after all. Trying not to dread the evening once the children were in bed, and Dom and I would be alone again. It was unusual for him to be home. He was generally out most evenings now, even at weekends, seeing old clients or meeting prospective ones. I hoped he wouldn't be expecting a repeat performance of this afternoon. Maybe I'd give Lucy a call and see if she and Jasper fancied popping over for an impromptu sleepover and supper. Safety in numbers. Nothing particularly suspicious springs to my mind. It would be easy to overanalyze and misinterpret, I think, trying not to let fear for the children railroad my imagination into dark, paranoid places. To know that I couldn't protect my children in the outside world is one thing. That I left them vulnerable to harm under my own roof is devastating. If I'd ever seen anything that made me uncomfortable, either between Max and the children or with Dom, I know I wouldn't have let it pass. Annabelle's words had been clear. Unless her diary was another figment of my imagination, conjured up from the depths of my distress, along with her being propelled backwards across the garden by the impact of a bullet. I can't believe I've invented the existence of a whole diary, though. My memory of it is far too vivid. If I close my eyes, I can feel its sharp corners, the bumps and indentations where Annabelle's biro had carved into the smooth white pages. I remember telling Dom about what I'd read in the early hours of the twins' birthday. I can clearly recall his shock and anger too. And I'm sure he mentioned the diary when I was still in hospital. That seems so long ago now. Once again, I've lost my grasp on where the line between truth and reality lies. Only one person can tell me, my daughter. But will I ever get to see her again? 44. I wake to the sound of laughter, children's laughter. It's just my imagination playing tricks on me again, I think. The room is dark. I am alone. For how long? Dom will surely return for his answer soon, and I need to be ready. I wonder if all this is just another test. He said the choice is mine, but experience teaches me that he's probably already made his decision. He's asked me to choose between the children, but it wasn't a real choice. He just wanted me to die, believing I'd made it. Power. I realise now how disempowered Dom had been feeling. By his own admission, his business was failing, our relationship had also broken down, and he was getting increasingly wound up by Max's constant presence and sly taunts. He must have reached breaking point when Max seemed to hint at us having an affair. When Dom found my suitcase, it surely confirmed his worst fears. He was going to lose everything. So he snapped. He's not a psychopath or a natural-born killer. He's an ordinary man who became desperate to the point of crazed, vengeful malevolence. And he's got me exactly where he wants me now. I should have fought back a long time ago. That is my biggest regret. I loved Dom, and we were good together. But then we weren't, and, in truth, I'd realised after the very first slap that none of my attempts to appease or re-engage with him were going to work. At that point, I should have got out. But I held on to hope too long. Lucy was right. I left it too late. What was I waiting for? For Dom to change? For life to get better or worse? Was I waiting for someone literally to put a gun to my head? I hear another hoot of mirth, followed by a chorus of giggles, and for a second I wonder if I'm actually still asleep and dreaming, or if the shut-off valve in my mind has rescued me from horror once again by diverting my thoughts towards happier places. The park, the playground, with the twins happily playing and chasing each other. Then I hear shouting and realise it's coming from outside on the street. Chattering, excited screeches and more boisterous laughing. It's Monday morning, I realise, the back of my neck prickling as the implication of this sinks in. There are people just a few metres away from me. If I could just signal my presence to them somehow, bang on the window boards, summon up enough voice to scream. I struggle to raise myself from the bed, but the effort defeats me, and I can only fall weakly back onto the mattress, battling tears of frustration as I imagined the parents and school children walking past Max's front door without a second glance, noticing nothing unusual in boarded-up windows on another empty house, their thoughts focused on the day ahead. My mind spins with memories of the daily school run, of Annabel and Aidan climbing onto the bus, dragging school bags and gym kits, Aidan struggling with his violin case. I remember how I'd walked them all the way to the gates when they first started at the prep school, clutching their hands in mine, trying to encourage them that everything would be all right. They would soon make new friends, and they could see their old ones any time they liked. I remember loitering until I'd watched them cut across the lawn and walk into the main building, never taking my eyes off their progress, but all the while distracting myself by chatting to whomever I was standing next to, wishing it were Lucy, wishing we were back at the old school gate. It was Annabel who first suggested they should start taking the bus. Lots of the other girls in their class did, she claimed boldly, and she didn't want to look like a baby. But don't, wear your dark glasses and follow us all the way there, will you, Mum? She looked up from spreading peanut butter on her toast. She'd taken to making her own snack after swimming club, and it was a meticulous process that always made me smile. You mean like your own personal bodyguard? You should be so lucky. I let the comment about my dark glasses pass, clenching my teeth at the reminder of bruises I tried to hide. I popped 2 more slices of bread down in the toaster in case Aidan wanted some. Stalker, more like, she said, laughing. Can't you come on the bus with us, Mum? Aidan asked, wandering into the kitchen and dumping his bag in the corner before remembering to hang it up in the cupboard under the stairs. Dom didn't like the house junked up, as he called it. I encouraged the twins to be as neat and tidy as possible downstairs, with the promise that they could be as messy as they liked in their own rooms. Of course, love, if you want me to, I told him, glad to have an excuse to do exactly that. I felt nowhere near ready to trust them alone on public transport and had every intention of tagging along somehow, even if it meant following them from a distance. I wrapped an arm around Aidan's shoulder as he sauntered back into the room, giving him a squeeze. We'll be safe, Mum, Annabel insisted, rolling her eyes at her brother when he reached over to grab a slice of her toast. The stop's right at the end of our road, and James and Sally get on at the corner. If you're worried, just ask their mum to make sure we get on the same bus, and we'll sit with them. They're 2 years above us, practically grown-ups. You've got all this worked out, haven't you, smarty pants? I said, hunting in the fridge for something to cook for Dom's dinner, knowing he probably wouldn't come home to eat it. Well, if you got us a mobile, you wouldn't need to worry at all, would you? Was her response, accompanied by a cheeky grin. Let's have a trial run then, shall we? I gave her a look, refusing to be drawn on that subject. I'd made my feelings clear already. I'll speak to James and Sally's mum and see if you can sit with them. But don't be surprised if you see me lurking on the back seat, at least to begin with. I know the school's only along the high street, but even so, I don't want to run the risk of you 2 monkeys getting into any trouble. Trouble? Nothing even the tiniest bit dramatic ever happens round here, Mum, Annabel said, and this time Aidan rolled his eyes in agreement. I'd asked Dom for his opinion the following morning while he was shaving, and his only comment was that he'd walked to school since he was old enough to tie his own shoelaces, and he didn't know what I was making such a fuss about. The kids were mixing with a better class of families now, he added. Not so much to worry about as when they were hanging out with riff-raff. Bad things happen to posh people too, I remember saying in my head. But I'd learned the folly of sharing that kind of anxiety with Dom. Lucy had been far more reassuring. You can't baby them, Maddie. It's hard. God knows it goes against every instinct to let them loose without us at their side, but at some point we have to trust them. We've taught them well. We need to let them spread their wings, at least as far as the bus stop anyway. And with us walking 50 paces behind them on their first day, she added, grinning. I just feel like I wouldn't be doing my duty or something. School, clubs, ferrying them around, that's what I'm here for, to be with them. And I like it. Shoot me, but I like hanging out with my children. I just don't want to turn into one of those, what did I hear one of the nannies say the other day? Helicopter parents. Easy for a nanny to say, not their child, Lucy said, pursing her lips. Not their heartstrings, not their maternal guilt. I feel the same, Maddie, but you deserve a life too. Don't feel sorry for me, Luce. I tried to be discreet about how things were with Dom, but I couldn't hide every bruise, and Lucy wasn't stupid. A life to do what? The twins are my life. What about Dom? She said quietly. Don't tell me. He's made you feel you don't deserve anything else, she said intuitively. You're his personal. It's not that simple, I said, sighing. Isn't it? How many second chances you going to give him, Maddie? Because he'll take as many as you offer, and he'll keep on taking until you stop giving. Last night I dreamed of us at the seaside, I said wistfully, all talk of the school run forgotten. Just me and the twins. It was splashing in the sea and I was just sitting there, watching them. That was it, nothing more than that. But I was safe. They were safe. We were happy. You only have to name the day, Maddie. That cottage is yours whenever and for as long as you want it. I know only too well what it's like. I told myself Matt would change, but the day he shook Jasper, I realised I was deluding myself. Jasper was only 6 months old. I'm lucky he's still here. Don't wait till it's too late, hun. Too late. Is it all too late? I'll never forgive myself if it is. I need to make it up to my children, and I hope with everything that's left in me that they are all, Annabelle, Aidan, Lucy and Jasper, safe, happy, alive. Even if I can't be with them, I just want them to be okay. Please let them be all right. Please, please, don't let them be hurt or in pain. My eyes finally snap open, but I feel groggy, disoriented and tearful as the memories evaporate into the dank, murky air. The sound of children's voices float towards me now, more strongly now, as if they are indeed passing right in front of the house. Definitely not a dream. I picture the sprawling groups of local school children making their way through the estate towards Ivybridge Primary School, chatting about what they did at the weekend, what they watched on TV the night before, which boy has started fancying which girl, and whether the teachers will notice if they don't hand their homework in for another week. The ordinariness of it breaks my heart, and a dry, racking sob hurts my bruised ribs. How many times have Lucy and I complained over the years about the busy school days, the rush to get to after-school clubs, the endless quest to keep up, keep in the loop, keep on top of everything. Go, go, go. Lucy always seemed to be one step ahead of the crowd. My organisational skills were rather more haphazard. But the twins always said they loved opening their PE bags to find odd socks and a random T-shirt. They said it was fun, waiting to discover what unusual combinations I'd packed away in their lunch boxes. It made school life more interesting. It reminded them of me, and they carried that reminder with them like a hug all day. Small stuff. Tiny pockets of gold tucked inside the beige anorak of everyday domestic life. Dom has taken all that away from me. Maybe there is still a chance. If I ever get out of here, if Dom keeps faith with the deal he offered me. Max is dead. It can make no difference to him if I denounce him as the gunman. And I feel no guilt about it. I was never in love with him. There was no affair. I'm now completely certain of that. Either Dom got the wrong end of the stick, or Max was just winding him up. Maybe he was tired of being the lonely bachelor, and after half a bottle of whiskey, the devil came alive in him, exactly like his younger brother, and he tried to cause trouble with a big fat lie, not knowing that Dom would believe him or where it would lead. Well, now it's my turn. The difference is that my lie can't hurt anyone, certainly not Max. The police already think he pulled the trigger in any case, but it will make all the difference in the world to me and the twins. My throat is burning and my stomach feels empty, cramping. I cough and it turns into a rattle. Trapped in this cold, damp room with no food, no warmth except my jacket to use as a blanket, I must have developed a chest infection. I constantly feel sick and feverish. I can hardly hold my head up. Dizziness makes it feel like a spinning top. I battle to keep my shoulders upright for a few painful moments before my muscles begin to tremble with a futile effort, and I sink backwards, losing all hope. I'm overtaken by a coughing fit, so I don't hear the key in the door, and shock bolts through me as I hear the ceiling light fizz and open my eyes to see Dom standing in front of me. So, do we have a deal? 45. You found the tickets in my suitcase. Did you find anything else? I say carefully. Dom has at least helped me to the bathroom. He's even brought me a bottle of water. No food, though. He clearly intends to keep me weak and unable to make a break for it. As if I could. I can hardly walk. Such as? He rests his thumb on the tip of the knife, just reminding me of its presence. You took it, didn't you? It's my get-out-of-jail-free card. Of course I took it, he says scathingly. What do you mean? How on earth could Annabelle's diary protect you? Because she was writing about Max, of course. What father wouldn't want to protect his daughter and stop the man who was trying to hurt her? He smirks. Easy to say, now he's not here to defend himself. How many more crimes does your brother have to take the rap for, Dom? You can have your deal, I say wearily. But will anyone actually believe me? That's what I'm wondering. I had no trouble getting myself an alibi at the golf club. I'm sure I can find witnesses to corroborate Max's interest in young girls. He was almost sacked for it once. I only have to ask his manager at the gym and he'll confirm the truth. Max was a dirty bastard. Yet you let him into our home and you didn't tell me, I say, anguish warring with anger. I didn't think even my brother would be idiotic enough to shit in his own nest, Dom says. But when you told me about her diary, I knew instantly. It was him, beyond a shadow of a doubt. One more reason he deserved a bullet in his dumb brain. One more reason for Dom to storm out of our bedroom and sit waiting with the gun in his hand for Max to arrive. And is this what Annabelle has said? Have you asked her? Is she still alive? Is she okay? I don't need to, and neither should you. Where's your mother's instinct now? He sneers. It's all there in her diary. Why don't you take another look? You lying on it? I take a sharp intake of breath as I suddenly become aware that the lump at the end of the mattress isn't just broken bed springs, and I try to scrabble towards it, but my arms and legs are stiff and heavy. The mattress suddenly tips and I roll to one side. Dom slides his arm underneath and pulls out a hardback book covered with white roses. I hold up my hands. My eyes fill with tears at the weight of Annabelle's diary on my palms. Feels like I'm holding a piece of my daughter. And as I open the book, her words blur in front of my eyes. I'm so caught up in my distress that I almost don't hear the first knock. But Dom does. I feel him tense beside me. A louder banging noise almost makes me jump off the bed. Louder and louder. Sounds like someone is trying to break down a door. I clutch the diary hard against my chest, wondering breathlessly if someone else has come to settle a score with Max, only too late. Don't move a muscle. Dom's hands shoot out, one grabbing my wrist so hard I think it might snap, the other clamping over my mouth. Mrs. Castle, Maddie, are you in there? I recognise that voice. Don't worry, Mrs. Castle, we're coming in to get you. A different voice calls to me from outside the house. Louder, authoritative, English. It's vaguely familiar, but I can't quite place where I've heard it before. Make one move and I'll finish you right now. Dom says gruffly, yanking me off the bed and dragging me behind him, my weak legs scrabbling desperately. He turns off the light and backs himself against the bedroom door, bolt upright, clutching me against his body. His heart thuds against my shoulder blade, and for a moment his left hand curls almost protectively around me, pressing flat against my midriff in a mockery of a lover's touch. Then it slides up to cover my mouth as he reaches behind himself with his right hand. A second later, I feel the tip of the knife pricking the skin of my throat. "If you can hear me, Madeline, just hold on tight for a few more minutes. Don't be frightened. Please try to stay calm." "Call me Maddie," I think, and as tears of fear mingled with relief roll down my face, I smile.
End of Disc 8. Disc 9.
46. "We know you're in there, Dominic. We've been to your house and found it all shut up. Bit of a mess in there, though. Can you tell us anything about that?" I feel Dom stiffen behind me, but he says nothing. What has he done to our home? I can hardly breathe as I try to picture what's happened. Are the children still there? Is Lucy? My thoughts fly all over the place as I wait for the detective to speak again. I recognise DCI Watkins' monotone drawl now, and I remember how unflappable he seemed during our interview at the hospital. But I can't believe he can be as calm as he sounds. If he's really sure that Dom is here and isn't just bluffing, then he must also know he's holding me captive and that I'm in danger. Why isn't he yelling at him or breaking down the door or something? Because this is a hostage situation, I realise. I am Dom's hostage. Immediately, I think of news footage I've seen over the years. I think of the twins saying that nothing dramatic ever happens where we live. And I wonder if they're watching the headlines on television right now. A siege situation on a West London council estate. Is Lucy with them, comforting them as they watch in shock and horror? Or were they all part of that scene of destruction at our home? I'm desperate to cry out, to alert the detective, to ask about my children. But the blade is pressing against my windpipe, and I no longer believe Dom would hesitate to use it. I know that if I cry out, he will slice my throat before the sound of my voice even leaves my mouth. My breath comes in short, rattling gasps as I try to keep it steady, anxious to know what's going to happen next, waiting to see how the detective will try to appeal to Dom. I can't think of a single bargain he can offer. What kind of deal is there to be done with a man who has nothing left to lose? But there is only silence now from outside the door. I grit my teeth to stop myself crying, and I can feel my knees locking painfully with the effort of standing rigidly still. My initial rush of relief at the detective's arrival has vanished, and as the silence continues, terror swirls around me in the dark. I'm desperate for him to say more, to explain what's happened at my home, to reassure me that my children are alive. Why doesn't he say something, do something? But as at our last meeting, he is obviously taking his time, following his training, working through the appropriate steps. He's doing his job. I should be thankful for that. I just wish he'd do it faster. "I trust you've been taking good care of your wife," he says at last. "She should really still be in hospital or resting at home, being looked after by her family and her GP. Professor Hernandez here was under the impression that was exactly what was going to happen." Dom tenses, his chest thrusting out behind me, and I jump. He tightens his arm around my waist in response, squeezing me harder against him. "Thankfully, the doctor is an extremely conscientious and uncannily astute man. He'd picked up on something in your mood at the hospital, and it bothered him that he hadn't seen your wife before she left. So alarm bells rang when he heard Madeline hadn't shown up for her scheduled appointment with the GP the following morning. Why would she miss such an important appointment, Dominic? Can you help me with that?" I can hear Dom's breathing becoming more agitated, deep and laboured. The detective is getting through to him. I can feel his big body trembling behind me. Police work. It's all in the details, you see? Missed appointments. A thank you email the doctor was expecting that didn't materialise. An experienced criminal would have thought of these little things. But you're not a master criminal, are you, Dominic? You've just allowed a bad situation to get out of hand. Don't worry, though. We can help you work things out. If you open the door, we can talk. I hold my breath, waiting to see if Dom will take the bait. He won't like the implication that there's something he's overlooked. He's established his consultancy on a reputation for thoroughness. I remember the hours he spent coming up with his company tagline. Castle Consultancy, a fortress of financial security. But that was business. This is personal. The detective is right. Dom didn't intend for any of this to happen. He's been acting on knee-jerk impulses all along, a gut instinct of furious reaction to what he believes to be my lies and his brother's disloyalty. Does he also genuinely believe Max was grooming Annabelle? If he does, and it's not just another smokescreen for his own sins, then it would surely have inflamed his anger when he loaded that gun and sat quietly waiting for Max to arrive. One more person his brother stole from him. His mum, dad, wife, daughter. He's lied to me constantly since he came to the hospital, manipulating my emotions, playing on my guilt to humiliate me further. But I have no sense that he's lying now. There is nothing left between us to salvage. Our marriage is over. Dom has admitted his crimes, and he has nothing to gain by further deception. Max was the monster in Annabelle's diary. I'm finally convinced of it. And I only wish I could share my horror and grief with Dom. The man who, before bitterness and paranoia tipped him over the edge, raised our beautiful children with me. Our twins. Or mine alone. I can't be sure, and it shouldn't matter. Getting home to them is all that matters now. Dom offered me a way to make that happen. A choice. And I want to believe, after all the lies, that it's genuine. I want to believe that deep down, a tiny part of the man I once loved still loves and cares about me. I can sense the tension in him. He stands frozen to the spot. Clearly there is no grand plan. There's no clever trick up his sleeve for the end game. There is no exit strategy. In other instances, the doctor might not have been quite so concerned, the detective goes on. But I did agree with Professor Hernandez when he called me on Saturday to express concern that it was a little odd for you to abandon your wife for so many weeks and then rush her, I believe those were his colleague's words, out of the hospital. I'm feeling lightheaded and open my mouth to draw in air, but Dom misinterprets my intake of breath as the prelude to a scream and presses the knife more firmly into my skin, close to the pulse point above my collarbone. I feel a trickle of blood and my knees give way. If he didn't have such a tight grip around my waist, I would collapse. I sag against him, and I'm surprised when all of a sudden he seems to have difficulty holding my weight, stooping to mould himself around me until I am enclosed, imprisoned by his big body. You can talk to me, Dominic. I do know you're in there. We looked everywhere else, of course, but D.I. Baxter here had a hunch about this place. We've been here before, you see. Checked it over as part of the investigation into your brother's alleged shooting. I say alleged because naturally we found absolutely no evidence to speak of, and I've always been a little reluctant to close the case. Something just never quite gelled for me. My interview with your wife only consolidated that feeling. No police cordon, no further action required. I remember wondering if the police had been here. I was right to, but it doesn't surprise me that they found nothing of any significance. Dom has wiped out all trace of his brother's existence. I wonder when he hid Annabel's diary under Max's mattress. And a shudder of disgust rolls through me at how Max pretended to be the perfect uncle, yet all the time was watching, coveting, pestering Annabel behind my back. Addicted to his sugar. The phrase flashes in my mind, and in the same instant I remember Max's phone message. "Hi, sugar, it's me. I'm waiting for you." Adrenaline rushes through me, flooding my brain, sharpening my senses and crystallizing my thoughts into a stark realization. Max was trying to confess his feelings for Annabel, not me, that evening in the pub. My thoughts tumble ahead so fast I almost can't keep up with them. Max told me he was meeting someone for a drink the evening before the twins' party, and I remember thinking how jittery he seemed, how on edge. He'd wanted to talk to Dom about something, and I don't believe it was me. Max did have a guilty conscience, but it had nothing to do with adultery and everything to do with his niece. Maybe his feelings for Annabel had been preying on his mind. Maybe he'd become overwhelmed by them and wanted to come clean before her milestone 10th birthday party. It seems crazy, though, that he would take the risk of confessing those feelings to his brother. He was clever. He would have known how Dom would react. I shake my head, battling to keep it clear. Perhaps I'm wrong, and his mind was on me after all, only not in a romantic sense. Maybe he went to the pub intending to give Dom a piece of his mind about how he treated me. Max always seemed so loyal to me, protective even, taking my side against his brother. No doubt Dom interpreted that as more evidence of an affair. But Max could have gone to the pub that evening simply intending to ask Dom to back off, to rein in his bullishness, at least for the twins' birthday. After all, Max had no idea that I was about to leave Dom. He couldn't have known that he was about to light a fuse that would propel his brother home to discover my plan and blow it sky high. I try to imagine the two brothers, head to head in the pub, old rivalries and resentments simmering between them, and I can picture Dom's brusque and condescending response all too easily. Max would have knocked back more and more whiskey, and perhaps then his mouth simply ran away with him. He couldn't get Annabel out of his mind. He tried to stay away, but he was hooked on her and couldn't stop his feelings spilling out of him. He simply had to talk about her. Those blue eyes, that pretty hair. Intoxicated by his infatuation with Annabel as much as by alcohol, he flirted with danger, unable to resist speaking of his secret, forbidden obsession. His obsession with my daughter. The walls seem to close in on me. I fight the sensation of being swallowed by darkness and force myself not to panic, but to think rationally about the Max I've known for 10 years. He always adored Annabel. He could never take his eyes off her. I felt so guilty for not realizing that his adoration went deeper than that of a proud uncle. My skin has crawled every time I thought of him trying to touch her. But have I been blinded by my own maternal guilt? Have I condemned Max outright as a monster when it was simply all in his head? He got too close. I know that much from Annabel's diary, and that is shameful, harmful enough. But deep down, I can't shake the sense that Max would never really have acted on his deviant impulses. He idolized Annabel. He wanted to possess her in some way, perhaps not even physically. As Dom once threw at me, she's the angel on top of the Christmas tree, and she outshines everyone. Max just needed to be around Annabel. She sensed this, and she was deeply uncomfortable, understandably so. And maybe Max had begun to realize that his fantasies had to stop. I feel a surge of protectiveness towards Annabel, and with it comes the certainty I've doubted so despairingly, that I do know my daughter, and I know she would have told me if Max had ever actually crossed the line. He invaded her space. He hovered around her like a moth courting the flame that dazzled but would ultimately destroy him. And then he realized he was playing with fire, spending so much time hanging around his niece. And on the day before her 10th birthday, the day he'd wanted to help make so special, his feelings overwhelmed him. Confused, desperate, and in turmoil, and then drunk, he turned to the only other man who might appreciate Annabel's bewitching charm, hoping to find some kind of relief, solace, or understanding, perhaps even forgiveness or absolution. Incredible as it seems to me that Max could have expected any of those things from Dom, a voice in my head reminds me how easy it can be to rationalize guilt and normalize the most unpardonable act. It was only when I believed my children might be in danger that I finally found the strength to leave Dom. Until then, I'd convinced myself that if my children didn't know about his aggression, it couldn't hurt them. How long had Max been telling himself it was okay to look as long as he didn't touch? I can almost hear his deep, quick voice talking and talking, trying to convince himself that he wasn't doing anything wrong, that no one was getting hurt. He died without knowing exactly how many people have been hurt. Was Max a true paedophile? Or just a sad, lonely man entranced by the beauty of my daughter's innocence? I'm not sure I'll ever know for certain, but I do know that Dom didn't even give him the chance to complete his drunken, misguided confession. Always hot-headed, he jumped instantly to the wrong conclusion, that Max and I were having an affair, and he charged home to punish me, and then, the following morning, his brother. Dom was right about one thing. Max has paid the price. I just can't bear the thought that Annabel has too, for her uncle's twisted passions, her father's blinkered possessiveness, and my naivety. It can't end this way. I won't let it. My heart is pounding so loudly I can hear it echoing in my ears. I turn my head to tell Dom what I've realised, to ask him to give himself up and give us a chance to talk, really talk. But my throat dries as I see the look on his face. "If I die, you die," he whispers softly in my ear, his shoulders hunching as he dips his head to the side of mine. The stubble on his chin grazes my cheek. It's all far too late, I realise. What's gone before no longer matters. The final curtain is about to fall. I tighten my grip on the hardback book, wishing the detective would hurry up and do something. From what he's saying, I can gather that D.I. Baxter is out there with him, along with Professor Hernandez. That's 3 men against 1, and surely they will have come armed and prepared. My eyes swivel around the room, and I wonder wildly if I should just make a break for it, hide under the bed while the detectives barge in and... "Perhaps you might be able to help us further with that line of inquiry, Dominic," the detective continues at last. "The evidence against your brother was entirely circumstantial. Forensics were satisfied, but I never did quite buy it. No real motive, you see. Turned this place upside down and couldn't find a jiffy to help us either. It all looks a bit different now, though, I must say. Someone has done a thorough job emptying the place. I hardly recognise it. Your handiwork as well, I suppose. Tampering with evidence," he says, baiting Dom a little more obviously now as he still refuses to be drawn out. "We might need to have a little chat with you about that. And about the children." My knees give way entirely now, and I can't help the moan that curdles deep in my throat. I turn my head to look pleadingly up at Dom, wanting to beg with my eyes for him to give himself up. But his own eyes are fixed and bloodshot, and his head is shaking very slightly from side to side. He catches my shocked glance and frowns down at me, pulling me closer against him, preventing me from dropping to the floor by digging his fingers into my ribs until I almost faint with the effort of not crying out. "My children, what about them?" "Come on, Dominic, you can't hide from us," You must know that. We live in a paranoid digital age. Whatever movements are trackable, we track. We have you on CCTV footage right now carrying Madeline into this very house. Bit of a lucky break for us that your brother lives so close to the pub. Their security cameras picked you out nicely. But we can help you find a way out, Dominic. No need for you to feel cornered. Never corner a wild animal. From out of nowhere, the words pop up in my mind. Perhaps from the twins' favourite wildlife programme or one of their school textbooks. Dom has nothing left to lose. No matter how I might wish things were different, the truth is he doesn't care about me, the woman he's convinced betrayed him, or the twins. The children he believes aren't even his. And from his crazed eyes, I'm beginning to suspect he doesn't much care about anything any longer. The detective's words will be like a red rag to a reckless, angry bull with an almighty grudge and no fear. I don't need your help. Dom's voice is a low growl. I don't need anyone. I can finish this all by myself. My family, my rules. His statement cut sharper than the knife grazing my skin. Stars dance in front of my eyes, turning the darkness into a hazy, swirling curtain around me. I remember lying rigidly in bed, waiting for Dom to come home each night. I remember the loneliness, the humiliation of always trying to pacify him for fear of him turning his aggression on the twins. I think of him thundering home after seeing Max in the pub, never giving me a chance to explain, always believing the worst of me. I feel scorching heat surge through my body, moving steadily upwards through my legs, my midriff, my arms, all the way to my fingertips. An electrical charge of fury shocking me into action. We are not your family. The words are torn from my throat. I howl them into the cold air. I am the cornered wild animal, but I refuse to be caged any longer. I picture the twins' faces and keep hold of that image as I dive forward into the dark room, a scream of anguish and desperation rupturing from my throat as I lurch in the direction of the bed. All I need to do is get far enough away from the door to let the detectives force their way in. All I need to do is put a temporary barrier between Dom and me. That's all I need, a place of safety just for a few seconds. You are mine. You've always been mine, Dom snarls. He grabs me from behind before I've taken my second step. His big arms circle me and he easily captures both of my hands in one of his. The diary skittering to the floor as he spins me around, yanking my arms upwards towards his chest, flattening my palms against his thumping heartbeat. He dips his head and for a second I think he's about to kiss me. I draw in a ragged breath of horror, straining to pull away from him, my legs collapsing weakly as I realise I'm right. I hear hammering, loud rhythmic bangs against the bedroom door. I hear the sound of splintering wood. But it's as though I'm in a stupor, cocooned in a bubble with Dom, floating upwards, the floor disappearing far below us. Sounds are muffled, and I can't take my eyes off Dom's face as he gently lifts me to my feet, holding me firmly in front of him before lowering his head towards mine. Terror shudders through me. I can't move or breathe. I'm transfixed by his glazed eyes, the quirk of his mouth. So I don't notice when he reaches into his trouser pocket, only glancing down when I feel something cold and hard pressing against my left hand. My wedding ring. Suddenly I remember my dream, my wedding dress dropping to the floor, Dom twisting and turning my wedding ring. He was really touching me, I realise. He'd come to visit me in the hospital and tried to smother me, removing my ring at the same time. In his eyes, I'd forfeited the right to wear it, and he wanted to dispose of it, as he wanted to dispose of me. Almost as soon as I realise that Dom has twisted the platinum band onto my ring finger, he presses the knife into my other hand, and in the same moment the bedroom door bursts open, the violent crash of the door flying off its hinges, finally shattering my trance. Torchlight dances across the walls, spotlighting Dom as he draws me closer towards him, hugging me almost tenderly to his chest, pulling me closer and closer against his big body, swaying from side to side as if to music. He hums beneath his breath. I recognize the tune. It's the song we chose together for our first dance. Dom! My voice dies as I realize that the knife between us has sunk deep into flesh. A short, sharp jerk, and then it slides in easily, deeply, fatally. I feel myself sway, and I start to black out as a gush of hot blood drenches me, spattering loudly onto the wood floor. I look down and see Dom's big hands still wrapped around mine between our two bodies. My fingers gripping the steak knife I now recognise from the kitchen set Max gave us as a wedding gift 10 years ago. The black wooden handle presses painfully into the palm of my right hand. The long blade is hidden, pointing away from me, lodged deep inside my husband's chest. 47. The curtains are drawn and the short driveway is empty. I peer out of the car window, looking up and down the street, and I can see that all the neighbours' curtains are also closed against the autumn dusk. A typically quiet Monday evening on our peaceful tree-lined road. I expected it to feel different, but it's only me that's changed. And the season. I left this house, this street, on the morning of the twins' birthday at the end of May, the threshold of English summertime. It's September now, and the leaves are golden, glowing like embers in the street lamps. We are parked in a circle of light beneath the one outside our house, and I wish DCI Watkins had chosen a darker spot further along so as to keep our presence low-key. But I suppose all the neighbours will know by now. D.I. Baxter will have knocked on every door. At least there was no need for flashing blue lights. We crawled through the Twickenham traffic, along Hampton Hill, past Bushy Park, and onwards to Hampton Village, with no siren wailing out a distress signal, nothing to draw attention to our progress or force the traffic to yield before us. No emergency, but a powerful, breath-stealing urgency that made me grind my teeth and grip the seatbelt until my knuckles turned white. The detective turns off the engine, and as the purr of the motor quietens, the only sounds I hear are the occasional crackles of the police radio and the hoarse rattle of my own breathing. I watch from the back seat as DCI Watkins glances in his wing mirror, checks his watch, hooks his notebook out of his pocket, and finally turns to look at Michelle sitting next to him in the passenger seat. I try to interpret their silent exchange. I don't want to ask them what they're thinking. I don't want to hear platitudes or the truth. I press my hands together to stop them shaking and jump when Professor Hernandez leans across the leather seat to take hold of them both, squeezing them between his own. I flinch as I'm reminded of Dom's touch. But the doctor's gentleness is a world away from my husband's death grip. I squeeze back, and the physical contact brings me some comfort, but it can't stop the trembles rippling through my body. I'm shaking uncontrollably, but I'm not cold. It's warm in the police car. The windows are beginning to steam up, and Michelle loaned me fresh clothes to change into after showering back at the police station. Clean, loose black lounge pants and a soft, long-line maroon sweatshirt. With my hair washed and tidied into a fresh ponytail, I feel slightly more human. Michelle also brought me a flask of hot, sweet tea, a bottle of water and some fruit and sandwiches, which I ate and drank automatically, tasting little, but knowing I needed to refuel my weakened body. I swallowed the medicine the doctor brought me too, hoping it would revive me after what I'd just endured. and give me further strength for what lay ahead. I'd been in the police station less than an hour before Lucy and the twins were officially reported missing. There still hasn't been any answer at the house, DCI Watkins said, leaning one elbow on the desk and rubbing his eyes with his other hand. I wondered how long he'd been on duty. He forced entry this morning, of course, and found all the rooms in a real state. I've got the SOCO guys all over it. There was no sign of the children or your friend. We've checked with staff at her deli in Teddington, and she hasn't been seen for a couple of days. He reached for his notebook before confirming. Last there on Friday morning, the girl said. The day Dom collected me from the hospital and said he just needed to nip home to take care of a couple of things. And she didn't think that was odd? Didn't it occur to her to report Lucy missing when she didn't show up all weekend? I said, irritable with shock, frustration and fear for my children. I leaned over and threw the remains of my sandwich in the detective's wastepaper basket, unable to stomach any more. She's only new. Just started working there, didn't you say, boss? Michelle chipped in. Brilliant timing, I said bitterly, frowning at him as I remembered the conversation about the deli I overheard between Dom and Lucy in the bright dark. Sorry, I didn't mean to be... I'm just so... It's perfectly okay. You have absolutely nothing to apologise for. We'll find them, Maddie. We will. He tried to hold eye contact with me, but I could tell he didn't want to. I'd seen the sideways glances from the other officers we'd passed as Michelle ushered me into this office. I knew what everyone was thinking. I'd been thinking it myself almost since the first moment Dom carried me up the stairs of Max's house and locked the door. I'm finally back, and my children are gone. Missing, presumed dead. The girl also said she understood Lucy had been moving house, so when she didn't show up, she put it down to her being busy and thought no more of it. Shame, really. Had she panicked and tried to get hold of Lucy, we might have been alerted earlier to the fact that she was missing. DCI Watkins sat back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest. I wondered if Lucy had genuinely believed Dom had been changed by tragedy and had offered to move in with him to help with the children. Or if he'd forced her, and then when he didn't need her anymore. I wished I knew which was the truth, but either way it didn't help explain where my friend was now, or why she'd gone missing, along with Annabelle, Aidan and Jasper. Your husband's business colleagues have also spoken highly of him. It seems he's been acting quite out of character, but you'll know better than us, Michelle said. Friends and colleagues generally only see what they're allowed to see, not the whole truth. The whole truth, or something our unconscious mind rewrites for us, I said, thinking of the doctor's words. Sorry. Michelle and the detective exchanged glances. Doesn't matter. Have the children been in school? I asked, my eyes darting around the office as if clues to their whereabouts might somehow pop out from the posters and notices pinned across the walls of the high-ceilinged room. I stared blankly at a map of the UK stretched across 2 notice boards, coloured pins dotted here and there. Was that a record of my movements, Dom's, or another case entirely? My eyes roamed across the coloured tangle of roads up and down the country and then lingering on the south coast, my heart pounding as the word Brighton seemed to leap out at me. Up until Friday, subdued but present was their teacher's comment. They've been keeping a special eye on them, she told me. Under the circumstances of your being in a coma, which is what everyone still thinks, DCI Watkins said, glancing at Michelle for confirmation. She nodded, continuing to chew her pencil to a woody pulp. I watched her discreetly pick a soggy, flaky shard from between her teeth. And today, were they at school today? I said, my mind still turning over the road map, grasping at a thought that kept drifting away. If they were at school, perhaps they're just round at a friend's house now for a play date. New friends I've never met. I'd already given them every name and number I could remember, and they'd checked them all, finding nothing. National Teachers' Strike. DCI Watkins checked his notebook again for confirmation. Fuck, Michelle said. aiming the mangled pencil stub at the bin. Precisely. So no one has missed Lucy at work this weekend. Everyone has presumed she's just been busy moving house, and the kids have been at school as normal right up until Friday. Dominic has clearly managed to convince everyone that it's business as usual. And it was only when he came to see you on Friday and for whatever reason decided to escalate matters that his plans changed. The detective checked his watch. It was because I told him I thought Annabelle was dead. That's what made him ramp up his next step. He'd realised that his plan had been successful. I genuinely believed I'd chosen between my children, and he'd seized his chance to turn the thumbscrews and make me agree to his escape plan, keeping hold of Annabelle's diary in case he ever needed evidence that he'd only acted to protect his family from an abusive monster. Perhaps he even had a line about self-defence already prepared. He was the guilty one, but he'd preyed on my guilt, which I'd handed to him on a plate. As always, I'd given him the upper hand, and he'd punched me with it. Brighton. I stood up suddenly, a light bulb flashing on in my mind. I shuffled quickly towards the map, reaching out to trace the diagonal orange line of the M23 out of London and down to the A23, my finger urgently tracing all the way to the bright blue of the English Channel. Sorry. DCI Watkins and Michelle spoke as one, both turning to look at the point where my finger jabbed at the map. Lucy has a holiday cottage in Brighton. It's a long shot, but she might have gone there, taken the children. I don't know, but it's possible. My heart started to thump even faster as I wondered if it could be true. I wanted it to be. I wanted to go there right now and find them all eating fish and chips on the pebble beach, watching the sunset and talking of the day I would come home to them. Give me the address, DCI Watkins said brusquely, handing me his notepad and pen. I wrote it down and watched breathlessly as he picked up the receiver of his desk phone. On it, he said shortly, after disconnecting the call. So what's the plan now, boss? Michelle asked, coming to stand next to me, resting a gentle hand on my arm and urging me back to my chair. Try to keep the weight off your feet, Maddie. The doctor said you must take it really easy. He's gone out for more meds, but in the meantime, sit, she said, her smile softening the bossy command. Officer is on his way to this address, and we've put out notices to police stations nationwide, DCI Watkins said. Closer to home, I've arranged to meet D.I. Baxter back at the house in an hour. He's there as we speak, knocking on neighbours' doors, seeing if anyone has seen or heard anything that might give us a lead. I'm going to head over shortly. I want to take another look round the place myself, and after that, I want to be there. I cut in firmly. Well, I'm not sure if... The detective looked shocked at the suggestion, his hands lifting in a gesture of refusal. I want to be there, I repeated. I looked him straight in the eye, making him stare my agony in the face. You're going to search the back garden, aren't you? That's what you're planning to do. There's no trace of them in the house or at Lucy's deli. None of their school friends have seen them. Your detective is knocking on doors. If they're not in Brighton, that leaves only one possibility I can think of, and you're thinking of it too, aren't you? I said, my chest tightening with sobs that turned into a hacking cough. I felt like I was burning up. Michelle was right. I really needed to be in bed, probably back in hospital. But there was no way I was going to let the detectives return to my home without me being there. It might be better if the guys call us afterwards, don't you think? Michelle said, grabbing a blanket from a cupboard and draping it over my shoulders. I'll stay here with you. Get some rest. Let them search. You're not in the best state to be out there, and they'll call us the second they find anything. No! I lost my family once, and I've just watched my husband die right in front of me. He accused me of being a freeloader, some kind of passenger in my family, a useless... Your husband clearly wasn't in his right mind, Maddie. You mustn't hold on to... I'm not going to sit here drinking tea while I lose my children a second time, I said, only just managing to stop myself stamping a foot in temper. Well, I think that settles it then, Michelle said, raising her eyebrows at DCI Watkins. Back in a tick, I just need a... You can smoke on the way, Michelle. Let's go, the detective said firmly. 48. I think it's time. DCI Watkins turns to look over his shoulder at me. As you requested, we'll let you go ahead first, and we'll follow after. Are you ready, Maddie? Am I ready? I'm still grappling with what that even means when I hear the clunk of the car door and look up to see Michelle stretching out a hand to me. She helps me out of the car and my legs wobble almost uncontrollably. But I feel the doctor close behind me and I know he's ready to catch me if I fall. My first few steps are so shaky that I wonder if I should have accepted the offer of a wheelchair after all, and I only make it halfway up the short drive before I need to stop. I take a deep breath as I stand looking up at the modest, white-painted, semi-detached house that has been my home for 10 years, where Dom first carried me over the threshold as an excited new bride. So many promises, some kept, many broken. Our marriage began and ended with a dance and a love song. I know that tune will haunt me forever. Thanks for coming all this way to be with me, Doctor. Thank you for everything, I say without turning round. No matter what happens now. I can sense his support, his quiet strength, and I try to take courage from it. It was strange at first to see him without his white coat. Somehow he still looked like a doctor, though. Discreet, professional, trustworthy. It wasn't just the medical garb and stethoscope that gave him such presence as a consultant, I think, remembering how he teased me. It was just him. He inspires confidence in others through the sheer power of his kindness and honesty. He heals not just with his hands and mind, his medical experience and expertise, but simply by being. Call me Sebastian, he says. We are friends now, not doctor and patient, yes? Yes, I agree. Friends. But I still need your help. I'm not sure I can do this. I'm so frightened. I don't want to lose. I wish I could be as strong as you. My voice trails away. I stare at the front door, willing it to swing open and for the twins to come bundling out, saying it's all been some kind of terrible mistake, and they've just been playing happily in their bedrooms. There are different kinds of strength, Maddie. You managed to pull yourself out of a dark place once. You can do it again. Very few people come back from the depths of coma you endured. I remember our sessions all too vividly. You went on an immense journey, locked inside your unconscious mind, and there must have been an extraordinarily powerful force drawing you back to life. My children, I say simply, and without them Fighting back the thought, I force myself to move, to continue walking slowly towards the house, my boots crunching on the gravel. As I approach the familiar glass-panelled front door, I notice empty milk bottles underneath the step. A green recycling box sits to one side, and a pair of Aiden's muddy football boots stands propped up against the wall, waiting to be cleaned. Signs of ordinary family life. I can't pull my gaze away from them, and my eyes fill with tears as I look closer and notice Aiden's name scrawled inside his left boot. I feel drawn by a sudden need I can't explain to retrace my steps from the last day I spent in this house. Perhaps that was in Dom's mind too, I wonder, as he reenacted our wedding dance moments before impaling himself on the knife. One last chance to remember before all is lost. Was he recalling those happy moments from our wedding to comfort himself? Or was he reminding me as one final punishment for my supposed betrayal? He took his own life, but he made me complicit. If I die, you die. And a little part of me did die with him. I glance over towards the corner of the house, the narrow footpath that leads round the side, and I turn away from the front door. I know there will be no answer anyway if I press the buzzer. I start walking again, my head pounding with the thought that this might be my last ever chance to walk in my children's footsteps. I can hardly bear it, but it feels like all I have left of the twins, the memory of those final moments before I lost them. Slowly, I make my way along the rough concrete path towards the back garden, every step bringing me closer to my memories of that terrible morning. I trail my fingers along the pebble-dashed side of the house and feel as though I'm walking through a time tunnel. It's like crossing over into a parallel universe, and I half expect Dom to come charging up the path with the twins clutched in his arms. There is no one, not a sound. The garden is quiet, dark, sheltered from the street lamps that light up the front of the house. The grass is long and unkempt, and I see that the rose bushes are almost completely bare now, their spindly, woody arms pointing in random directions as if to misdirect me in my search for clues, evidence, any sign that my children might be hiding, or their bodies hidden, in this place that Dom knew I loved. He's done his best to take everything and everyone else from me. I'm trying hard not to believe he would really have executed his final punishment and taken the lives of the two little people who matter more to me than everything else put together. I look up at the stars and then down at the ground, seeing the echo of the night sky in a scattering of white petals fluttering confetti-like across the right-hand side of the lawn. It looks as though a wedding party is about to take place, or a wake. A sweet sour taste fills my mouth, and I have to swallow the impulse to be sick. "Annabelle," I whisper, barely breathing her name, my eyes searching for her thin, lifeless body beneath the barren rose bushes, even though I know it isn't there, has never been there. I look up towards the bedroom windows at the back of the house. Aidan's room, with Annabelle's right next door. "Run, hide, don't look back." That is where Annabelle would have run to hide, pulling her brother behind her on the morning of their birthday. Her own private little world, a place of safety. I keep my eyes fixed on the dark window, picturing them crouched on the bedroom floor, their arms entwined around each other, eyes squeezed tightly shut and heads close together as they waited for the horror to pass and Mummy to come and find them. Only I didn't come. And I wonder how long they waited, what they heard, and what they imagined was happening outside in the garden below. They may not have witnessed either shooting, but images would have played out in their minds all the same. I want the chance to wipe out those terrible pictures and replace them with only happy ones. I step across to the wooden swing bench where I used to curl up with the children on summer days. The Buddha they gave me sits patiently next to the bench. I close my eyes and picture the twins' joy as I unwrapped it after my special Mother's Day breakfast and told them it would bring us peace always. I remember those moments so vividly, even as I remain conscious of the world around me. This is the difference now when I drift off into memories. In the bright dark, I became part of my memories. I inhabited the past, gliding between different times in my life, never realizing that I wasn't actually there. Until now, I've never wondered why I always remained inside the house, reliving and replaying all the events of my life, but never venturing out here, to the place where the peace I'd promised the twins was destroyed. Violence tearing through our safe world, ripping my life apart. Now I understand that my unconscious mind was protecting me. As Professor Hernandez once said to me, the mind is incredibly powerful. I have fought my way back to life, and I will find my children, I think desperately, starting to hunt in earnest through the garden now, dragging my hands through trailing wisteria and the laurel hedge along the back fence. plunging my arms into hawthorn bushes, heedless of the thorns tearing my skin. I rip into the huge rhododendron bush in the far corner and yank away branches of spruce overhanging the back of the shed, where Dom changed into his dad's old army clothes and sat waiting for his moment. My legs are shaking so much I can hardly stand, but I don't stop. I trample through the flower beds I spent years nurturing, oblivious to the little wildlife statues of my tranquility garden toppling sideways as I walk round and round in circles, sobbing now, tears running down my face and my heart pounding until I think it will shatter into pieces. Annabel, Aidan, where are you? A ball of anguish chokes me as I whirl around the garden, the stranglehold of hysteria tightening as I search desperately, repetitively, returning again and again to look at the empty swing where Annabel still isn't sitting, ducking to look underneath the slide where Aidan still hasn't crouched to hide from me. If they're not here, I have no idea where else to look, and if I cannot find them, I wish Dom had taken me with him. Maddie, please stop. I ignore DCI Watkins' low warning. I know he wanted to search the garden methodically, no doubt to preserve any evidence. I'm disturbing a possible crime scene. I'm making his job harder, and he'll be wishing again that he'd insisted I stay back at the police station. But this is my garden, my children. I have to find... I hear a scraping noise. Hairs prickle at the back of my neck. I turn. I look across the garden to see old Mr. Cooper from next door, shuffling round the corner of the house, leaning heavily on his polished ebony walking stick as he joins Professor Hernandez and the detectives standing wide-eyed at the edge of the lawn. DCI Watkins, Michelle, the doctor, and another man I presume must be D.I. Baxter. The moon casts an ethereal glow over them all. They look like ghosts, pale figments conjured up by my imagination to play yet more cruel tricks on me. But pressed close to each side of my elderly neighbour, skinny chopstick arms hooked tightly through his, stands a small, freckle-faced, copper-haired child. I blink once, twice, but they don't disappear. A hollow cry erupts from my throat and I lurch forwards. As if made of stone, my feet refuse to move. Heavily, clumsily, I drag them across the dewy grass, and then I'm stumbling, falling towards my children, arms outstretched, until my shoulders almost dislocate. Every last pain in my body forgotten as I watch the twins simultaneously break free from Mr. Cooper and fly towards me. Mummy! The thud of Annabel's body against my chest is followed a second later by Aidan's, and it feels like they've kick-started my heart, bringing me back to life. I wrap them up and hug them so hard I don't think I can ever let go. I feel their skinny arms work their way behind my back, linking hands with each other, entwining until our three hearts echo with one thumping beat, and it's impossible to know where one of us ends and another begins. I knew you'd come back for us, Annabel says at last, turning her soft cheek to rest flat against my chest. Always, my darling girl, I say, burying my face in her golden crown of curls, breathing in the poignantly familiar sweet scent of apples mingled now with the damp cinder tang of autumn. I thought we'd never see you again, Aidan says, looking up at me with blue eyes shining out from a face that is crumpled and wet with tears. Nothing, no one can keep me from you, my precious boy. I hold him tighter, my throat too choked to say more. You have a very kind, wise neighbour, Maddie, Lucy says, stepping forward, and I look up to see her smiling through her own tears. He heard Dom smashing up the house in the early hours of Saturday morning, and the moment he saw his car pull away, he came to get us. We've been playing bingo pretty much non-stop ever since. She rolls her eyes, and then she's dancing towards us, sobbing and laughing as she throws her arms around me. I'm so happy you're home, she says as she presses her cheek to mine. We never knew. All this time, Dom told us you were still asleep in the hospital, that it was unlikely you would ever wake up, and that we couldn't visit you, couldn't... I can't thank you enough, Lucy, I say hoarsely, for looking after them. You're the best friend I could ever wish for. Now meet my other best friend, Sebastian. He helped me find my happy ending, I say, beaming as Professor Hernandez strides across the grass to shake Lucy's hand, before returning to pump the hand of each of the detectives in turn, ruffling Jasper's hair, and then last of all stooping to give a surprised Mr. Cooper a big hug. As I told this young detective here when he knocked on my door just now, Madeline has been a lifesaver to me since my wife died, my frail but brave neighbour says, pulling a neatly pressed white handkerchief out of his tweed jacket pocket and meticulously dabbing his eyes. I know he came by before. I'm sorry I didn't answer the door. I thought it was, him come back for the twins. I've been keeping them hidden in my wife's old sewing room, you see, just till I could work out a plan. It was the very least I could do for Maddie's little ones. Look at them. Who could ever bear to hurt a single hair on their beautiful heads? I look down at the twins, pressing against me as if to imprint their bodies upon mine. They are part of me as I am of them. A three-way knot that has looped between us since before they were ever born, and I will never let it be broken again. I love you both beyond life, I say, treasuring the steady rise and fall of their chests against mine, their synchronized puffs of breath warm against my neck. I love you round the stars and over Mars, I whisper between their red gold heads. Annabel looks up at me, and our eyes lock in recognition of her words and where she wrote them. I'm almost too blinded by tears to see the shy, anxious smile on her face, but I feel her tiny hand squeeze mine. Is it over, Mummy? Like a bad dream. We're going to start living our own dreams now. I gaze down at the two almost identical, happy, shiny faces glowing up at me. My precious twins. I choose us. The Choice. Written by Samantha King. Read by Emma Powell.
We do hope you've enjoyed listening to this Oak Hill audiobook. If you'd like to listen to further titles, please contact your local library or write to us at the address on the box cover.